Hello and welcome to the Lenko show. Today, I'm very pleased to tell you that I'm going to be sitting down with one of my very, very good friends, Robert Grant, who I actually met a couple of years ago now playing American football, but I've only recently, really, the start of this year, started speaking to him on a very frequent basis. And I am absolutely delighted that he's going to be joining us on the show today because he's a genuinely inspirational guy, very, very positive person, and an amazing chap to have around and have in your life and be involved with and speak to on a frequent basis. So hopefully today you're going to get loads of little golden nuggets around overcoming difficulties. You'll hear a lot about what Robert's been through recently and previously throughout his career, throughout his life. And like I said, he's a genuinely, if I can get my words out, inspirational person. So I'm very much looking forward to sitting down and talking with him. And I hope you enjoy this show. Robert, hello and welcome to the show.
Alex, brilliant to be with you. How are you, my man?
Very good. For the third time, it's good to have you on.
It's great to be here. I like it so much.
No one will know this, but we actually started this about 10 minutes ago, and the internet had other ideas, so it didn't really work out.
Gotta love it, huh?
But better than a couple of weeks ago when we first scheduled it, and your body had another idea, another path it wanted to go down. What happened there?
Yeah, I did. We had the schedule for a couple of weeks ago, but I got a little nervous. But no, I had to have an emergency surgery a week by Thursday. It's a little. It can be a pretty big deal, But I'm glad that we've got some great doctors up here that were able to kind of get me in and get it taken care of quickly.
What happened there was compartment syndrome, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. And I'm sure you know what compartment syndrome is, but some people, for those that don't, it's a little bit of a bleeding issue, a bleeding within the muscle. So the muscle bleeds internally, and it causes the muscle to swell up. And because the muscle's swelling up internally, it pushes against your vascular system. So it can be quite dangerous because it cuts off blood flow to anything that's below where the compartment syndrome is, and it can be dangerous. You can be prone to throw blood clots or whatever. But yeah, I've just been at some soccer practice. My brother and I run a soccer team up here, and with the kind of restrictions, we're able to get together but do some conditioning, non-contact stuff. So we did some conditioning, run the guys a little bit, and thought we'd play for 20 minutes, just non-contact, two touch. So I'm playing, running about like I'm 21 still, and I don't recall taking a knee or a knock or anything like that. Anything significant enough to make me that was sore, But I was driving home at about 9:30, and my leg just started to feel a little bit tight. And by 9:45, my leg was just so swollen.
Yeah.
So I got on the phone to NHS 24 and just kind of explained the situation and told them, my brother, I've spoken with my brother, he's free to bring me up. Just let me know where I need to be and when. And she said, no, there's already an ambulance on its way. So, within 20 minutes, I was in an ambulance and on my way to the hospital. And, they were great. The ambulance staff were brilliant. Got me into the Edinburgh Royal Infirmary, and the medical staff were great. They had a consultant come down, and there's a specific kind of test that you do to check for compartment syndrome, and it doesn't feel good, but it's essential that it gets done. So they monitored me kind of for the next few hours, and then early Thursday morning, I went to theatre and had surgery.
Yeah. So like you said, it's that bleeding within a muscle compartment, isn't it? And because your muscle is basically enveloped in fascia,
yep,
it has nowhere to go. So it just pushes out, swells against that, can swell up quite substantially to the point where it can cut off circulation. I think you can in severe cases, you can
lose limbs. You can lose limbs, you can die from it. And as I said, this is actually the third one I've had on that leg. So it's, and hopefully, kind of touch wood, this one's going to be smooth and straightforward. It feels pretty good. But the last couple, the first one I had, I blew my knee out several years ago, ACL, MCL, and had to have surgery and developed compartment syndrome while I was in the hospital. So the doctor was there and able to do it. But the second one, I happened on the Saturday, and I didn't realize. And then I went to see our athletic training team on the Monday, and then was rushed in for an emergency procedure. But it almost killed me. They did the fasciotomy. So what they do is they just cut through the fascia and allow the muscle to swell up on the outside. And the hope is that it'll swell up, they'll do whatever they need to do, and then it'll go down and they'll try and close it back together. And in some cases they have to do skin grafts, what they did with me. And it can leave quite a bad scar, because obviously that it might not ever swell back to the original size. So they're kind of just pulling skin here, pulling skin there. But it's brutal, it's painful, but it's amazing. That's where I had one years ago when I was playing football, and I had one in my arm, and I've got a nice scar that goes from my wrist to halfway up my bicep, and I lay in the hospital for about 2 weeks, and it was cool because I could move my fingers and see all the ligaments and tendons and stuff move in your arm, and kind of fell in love with the body after that. That's what made me want to go back to school and study kinesiology, exercise, sports science.
So is that what you did?
Yeah. Yep. Fell in love with it. It's amazing. The body's amazing. Yep.
So it's not the first injury you've had.
It's not, and I guarantee it probably won't be the last.
You've had quite so we originally met on the American football field, didn't we? Where
we did.
You playing for Edinburgh, I was playing for Tamworth, and it was when you guys travelled down to us. And like with being British American football, you never see I've never seen anyone before who was purely a kicker. So I remember I was warming up at halftime, just keeping the leg loose, and we ended up doing a bit of kicking together, didn't we? And I had to quote the in-betweeners, kicker friends.
Yeah.
And yeah, since then we had a bit of a chat then, didn't we? And
we did. It was great. And the thing is, like, I love the game American football. I think it's the greatest game on the planet. I love it for the strategy that's behind it, the camaraderie, the requirement for each individual player doing their job for the big picture to work out, and I played other positions, but I was a goalkeeper growing up. So kicking for me just came really natural and really easy, and I'm just intrigued, kickers get a bum rap sometimes, but
we get forgotten about. That's what happens to us.
Until it's like 2 seconds to go in the Super Bowl and you have to kick something 55 yards straight down the middle with 11 guys at 6'5", 220 pounds trying to block it, But no, it's a unique talent and a unique skill. And as I said, I've been lucky to be involved when I was younger, kind of, playing for the Scotland national team, playing for Team GB. So I kind of kept my eye on different things, and I'd heard about Alex Lenkowski, the kicker, and it was really cool because you've got a leg, and it was fun to go out there. We're warming up and watching you, and it does get a little bit competitive. You've got a couple of years on me as far as youth, and you're backing up, so I try and back up, and you back up, so I try and back up. But it was good. And I'll just be honest, our conversation there for that short period of time, I was really inspired by you and kind of your outlook on things, and I just knew that was somebody, that you were somebody that I wanted to be a part of my life. I love to surround myself with great people. I love to surround myself with like-minded people that are motivated and driven and excited about different things. And I just knew it was almost instant. There's just something about you where you want to try and create something special. I believe in your relationships with everybody that you meet. So I appreciate that. And it was fun. And as soon as we can travel again and this plant leg's a little bit better, I'll be bringing my bag of balls and we'll go out and we'll swing the leg a little bit.
Yeah, we definitely need to get the leg swing. I would say that respect most certainly goes both ways. Although it's always, I don't know if you've ever found this, but I've always found that when warming up, I always like to have a little bit of almost like psychological warfare, or a little bit of mind games with the other team or with the other kickers, and just start backing it up as much as I possibly can.
Oh, yeah.
And more often than not, I end up in the other team's half, stood next to their kicker. I'm kicking one way and he's kicking the other way. So he's kicking like 40, 50-yard field goals down to his end, and I'm sort of like backed up about 60-odd yards, something like that. And I remember when we were kicking at half time, and I just thought, I've not met this chap before. I like him, but I'm going to fucking show him. I'm going to see what he's got. And that was obviously when we had it's almost like a little bit of friendly competition in it, where we were just swinging the leg at half time and whacking balls into the trees. And
as I recall, I think we went pretty close together. Like,
oh mate, it was just good fun. Because like the one thing that I remember is being at Loughborough University, where that was pretty much where I learned my craft and practiced it. I was going up to the American football field most days on my own with a bag of balls, courtesy of the club, and just banging them through the post, running and fetching them, bringing them back, and just doing it on my own. Yeah. And as much as I like my own company, it's always nice to have someone there with you doing it as well, isn't it?
Well, it is, and it can be, as I was saying, I was the same, lonely. I didn't have, you said you went to Loughborough. Well, when I was a kid, kind of my story was a little different. I grew up playing soccer. I was a goalkeeper. I played for my local club here, and then I got the chance. I signed for Celtic Boys Club. So, kind of soccer is kind of where I went. And then I had the chance to go to America. Never kicked an American football in my life, and kind of played in high school over there, had these great experiences. But when I came back here, there wasn't anywhere I could go. So I remember just finding a lamppost and just trying to strike this lamppost. If I could hit a lamppost from 50 yards, then I'm going to be pretty accurate. But as you say, it's kind of lonely. You kick 3 or 4 balls because that's all you've got, and then you run down and you get them, and you run and you get them. So there's something neat about it, and there's a really cool camaraderie, I think, that comes from that.
The Kickers Union.
It is. And nobody wants, and that's the same. You've probably been the same. I've been in tight games where the other kicker has a chance to kick to win the game, and you don't really want him to miss.
I do. I want to win.
Yeah, you do.
I'm thinking.
But here you really, like, for me, I want kickers to do well. Maybe it's just the fact, I've coached for such a long time. I want people to be successful, and I kind of look at all the hard work that people have put in. Like, yeah, obviously I want him to miss, but part of me is like, oh, poor guy, don't miss. You know what I'm saying? That I want to win at all costs, whatever it takes. But there's something about, I don't know, the success of the select few.
Yeah.
That you want.
I kind of get what you. I mean, I always have the feeling of he'd better miss. I want him to miss, but then when he does, I'm always like, I feel for the guy. I know how that feels. I know how that feels. That's a lonely place. That's
a probably better way to describe.
Yeah, where the defense comes running back on and they're thinking, oh, for God's sake, like, that kind of thing. And you look at your quarterback and your offensive coordinator and your head coach, you think, oh, I'm sorry, guys. I'm going to go and sit down now.
Well, it is a tough job. If a receiver drops a ball, it's all right. It's not all right. I hate drop footballs. I hate drop football. If it hits you in the hands, catch it. But he's got an opportunity to go out, and if he goes and catches 4 more balls and scores 2 more touchdowns, nobody is remembering that drop ball from the second quarter, 8 minutes into the second quarter.
Yeah, it's a bit like a goalkeeper making a mistake in football, isn't it?
Yeah. You can't make mistakes. You make a mistake, it costs you. So no, but that was fine. So I do, as we were talking about our first meeting, it was great. Your Tamworth put a good performance in, and it was a long bus trip back, but it was fun. It was worth it. It was a long way, and it's tough. I respect the game of American football here in the UK a lot. I've been really lucky in my career to have played at a high level, coached at a high level, but there's nothing like sitting on a bus for 9 hours and getting off and immediately getting changed and trying to get ready to play a football game.
Yeah. It's a long old way to try and get yourself in the right mindset and get yourself psyched up, isn't it?
Yep. And it's a unique thing. you know, British American football, the football over here, the organisation, the coaches, everybody that's involved, and the players especially. It's for the love of the game. They're not getting on a chartered flight, flying 2 days before a game, staying in a 5-star hotel. No, it's stopping at a Waitrose if you're lucky on the way down and getting a sandwich and getting off to play, and it's fun. It's real fun.
Although I remember the last time we travelled up to play you, so obviously everything's run through the club, and you've got certain people on the team that volunteer for certain jobs, and one of our guys, Elliot Walters, one of our running backs, I'm very close to him. I like the guy. Although this time we stayed up, we travelled the day before the game, stayed in a hotel. And I use the word hotel very loosely. It wasn't a hotel. It was basically a hostel with like 4 or 5 beds in each room. And there was literally a nightclub across the road, but it was like an open air one. So it was outdoors. It was just covered by a tent. And there was just loud music playing all night long. And I remember thinking, I'm going to kill you. Elliot, I hate you right now for this. Yep. So we ended up staying there. Got no sleep whatsoever.
Probably better sitting on a bus for 9 hours.
Yeah, probably better. So I wasn't. If he books it again, I'm going to go somewhere else.
Well, my friend, you come up here, mi casa, su casa. You don't need to worry about that.
Well, yeah, well, I'll definitely hold you to that.
I'll be pouring some lactose stuff in your breakfast, but hey.
Anything to get the win. Yeah. So anyway, so obviously you played American football in the UK, but you've also played across the pond.
I have. I've been really, really fortunate. I had this great opportunity when I was a kid, as a teenager. I got the chance to go to high school in America, and I went to high school in Southern California, and I was just a kid, 16, almost 17 years old, and the American dream was very real. So I went out there and I had no expectations, didn't know what I was really getting into. I felt 10 foot tall and bulletproof. I had all the support from my family, and I went across, and the family I was staying with, their son was actually tight end on the football team, big stud, ended up going on to play Division 1 football, and but I went out and I played linebacker. I started at linebacker, started at nose guard, played tight end, and the coach said, "Hey, you play soccer?" I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "Can you kick a football?" I went, "I don't know." So he put the ball on kind of on the 35-yard line, which is a 45-yard field goal. And I had no coaching, no nothing. And he just like, "Hey, go and see if you can kick it." Well, I've never kicked a ball so pure, so clean. And it must have went about 70 yards. And he's like, "Guys, I think we've got our kicker here, And I just fell in love with it, So I got a chance to go to high school over there and played football, kicked and punted, and Grace, it changed my life. It really did. That experience, to go over there as a kid, to be around a great program, Altaloma High School in Southern California, and I actually kicked, and it might still be, I don't know, but I kicked the high school state record. I kicked a 59-yard field goal, which at the time was a high school state record.
And that's a big field goal, anyway.
It is long.
That's a big field goal. Like even NFL standards, that's still a big field goal. That.
Yeah, and but yourself, when you can kick a 59-yarder and it feels like a 59-yarder, but sometimes you kick a 59-yarder and it feels like a 25-yarder. I just how the ball comes off your foot, it was just. But I had some great opportunities. I had kind of some it was Pac-12 teams, UCLA, USC. I was in Southern California and was hoping for a scholarship, but I had to come home. Had some family things. Had to come home, and I came back to Scotland, and but I never stopped chasing my dreams. I fell in love with it. I wanted to play in the NFL. I wanted to play in college, and I had a great opportunity not very long after that with the Scottish Claymores. And here was me. I played 1 year of varsity football in America, thinking I could play professionally. So I just called the Claymores office at the time in Edinburgh and asked for a tryout. And Mike Kenny, who was the European or the national coach at the time, said, okay, perfect, I'll pick you up on Sunday. And we went to this little soccer field in Winchborough, and it was raining in one corner and hailstoning in the other, and the wind was blowing. And we went out and had a lot of fun. And the following week, I got a letter from EFAF, and I'd been put forward and selected to play for the European All-Star team at the Super Bowl in New Orleans the following year. Just like that. What a cool experience, you know. So it's been really cool.
That's amazing. And how did that actually go?
So what, the game?
Yeah.
So the game didn't go too well. We had we played against a South American select, and it was a great experience. I don't know if you know, we had another couple of guys on the team that I ended up playing with, Jason Byworth. We had some talented guys on the team, but we ended up losing the game. But for me personally, it was a great experience. We went to Germany for a week. That's where we met for training camp, and then we spent about 8 or 9 days in New Orleans, staying with host families. What a trip. I mean, a 17-year-old, 18-year-old kid, like, it was just, what a trip. Great experience. And we got to play the game, and it was an awesome experience. And it was the game that New England Patriots against Green Bay. Green Bay won the Super Bowl that year. And just a fantastic experience. We did lose. And but for me, it was cool. I was awarded MVP, specialist MVP and stuff like that. It was just a really cool experience, you know. It was cool. Caught a couple of balls at tight end, but just fun thing, you know.
And then and obviously that only came about through you taking chances and trying the sport when you moved over there in the first place. But then when you actually moved back over, you actually taking the initiative, having the balls to go and write the letter, send a letter to the Scottish Claymores and put yourself in the frame. That was obviously the key step.
Absolutely. And I believe wholeheartedly that, you know, we are the president and CEO of ourselves. You're the president of Alex Lenkowski Incorporated. I'm president of Robert Grant. You know, if we don't take initiative, if you don't take a chance to go try and do something, it's not going to come find you. And I'm sure that you can looking past in your career or the people that you've known, there's so many talented people, so many gifted people that just haven't reached something. I've never been the most gifted athlete, the most talented person, but I will work harder than anybody. And I've got confidence in myself that if I work hard, I try and get as much information as I can and find a way to do something, then why not? I really believe back then, I believed I could accomplish anything. But you do have to take a chance. You do have to be willing to fail. You do have to be willing to be corrected. I mean, I've been wrong and corrected and made mistakes probably more than anybody, but it's always been a great learning experience because there's people out there a lot smarter than I that have taken me aside and said, Robert, what about this? What about that? Did you think about this? Did you think about that? And it's been a great experience throughout my life. And even not just in sport, but in life and business and all these different things, to take a chance. People say, oh, he's just lucky. Sitting about waiting for something to happen is not lucky. Going out, taking a chance, creating opportunity, that's where I believe opportunity comes. People can call it luck all they want, but it's not. It's creating opportunity.
Well, you create your own luck, don't you?
Yeah.
You create your own. Like I love the saying of, you know, good things come to those who wait, but the best things go to those who go and get them.
Yeah.
Basically, and if you're sat around waiting, you're just going to get the bits that nobody else wanted, or the people that did go out and make things happen. You're just going to be collecting their dust, really, and their outcast opportunities.
Oh yeah. So. Oh yeah. And that's it. You've got to. And I think there's a fine line between confidence and cockiness, or however you want to say it. But if you want to be good at something, and if you are good at something, you do have to have a little bit of cockiness, a slight bit of arrogance, you know. Whereas I can do this, you know. And I was nervous calling Mike Kenny on the phone to Scottish Claymores, but deep inside, I thought if he comes out and picks me up and we go, I'm going to kick like nobody's ever kicked before. You know, and you do create opportunities. And people talk about patience, you know, oh, you just got to be patient. I don't like patience, you know. patience, people think patience is kind of sitting about waiting for things to happen, but it's not. It's actively pursuing, doing everything you can and not getting frustrated in the process. That's what patience is.
Yeah.
Finding a way, to get things done.
Yeah. I think Gary Vaynerchuk, I heard say this quite a while ago, where if you were going to break down to like patience or getting things done and maintaining that mindset, you have your macro, like your long-term outlook is patience. The short-term, the micro, is speed. It's all about speed, doing things, being busy, but then being patient in the long run. And that's obviously where you reap the rewards.
Well, that's just about life. We all know people, success. People put so many different things on success. How much money you've got, how big that's not success to me. It's that process in between starting and where you are. That's the success. How much have you grown? The influence that you've had on people's lives, the influence that people have had on your life, because people don't see that middle part. People don't see Alex out at Loughborough kicking 5 balls and chasing them down and coming back. People don't see that. They just see you putting on a GB uniform.
I only got given 3.
Yeah. 3 balls. That's even worse, But people see you putting on a GB uniform and suiting up and singing the national anthem and representing your country. They don't see all the graft that's went before. They just see that. That's where the success is, And there's so much in the world today. There's so much put on the final result. It's not. That takes care of itself. I'm a big advocate. I coached at a university in America where we shouldn't have won all the games that we won. But our head coach, one of the best men I've ever been around, one of the greatest mentors I've been around, prepared our guys so unbelievably that they couldn't fail when they went on the field. What you do away from the field allows you to take care of things on the field. And that's where success, that's the fun part. The games are the fun part. The meetings are the fun part. The execution of certain thing, that's the fun part. It's all the hard work that goes before, And I've got a friend of mine that owns a gym here. And just about 3 years ago, he came to me. He was working at a local gym as a trainer. And he came to me, he goes, I'm thinking about doing this. What do you think? I'm a bit worried. What if I said, you've got a plan? I know you'll be able to execute that. Why not? Why not take a chance? The kid has done absolutely unbelievable over the last 3 years. It's been incredible. And he's been very successful now. And people are seeing that, and people don't like it, and they criticize him and they mock him, but they don't see the days where he went without sleep, the hard work that he puts in writing programs, and then obviously during all this lockdown stuff, his gym had to close, so he had to be so creative and do everything online, and it's about using your imagination and not being fearful of failure or the outcome as your single-minded success for you. Okay, this is what I want to do. How am I going to do it? And adaptation is one of the coolest things you can have in life, especially sport, whatever it is, but being able to adapt. And I think, there was a great quote that we had in our gym at BYU, and it was competitive greatness, being at your best when your best is needed, and that comes from preparation. Comes from work in the classroom. It comes from executing in the practice. All these different things that creates a space for you to be competitive and being at your best when your best is needed, because everything's good. I was talking to a friend of mine last week, and they were talking about motivation this and motivation that and blah, blah. Motivation is great until you step in the ring and get punched in the mouth. Now, everything's good until you get a punch in the mouth. Now, where's the motivation coming from? It's you versus them. It's got to come from within. And if you're prepared and you've done everything that you can, then you give yourself a chance,
Yeah. I think the Navy SEALs have a saying where you never rise to the occasion. You only ever sink to the level of your preparation.
Yes, 100%.
Which, again, that comes down to all the hours of practice that you put in. It's what you do off the field. It's what you do away from when anyone else is watching, when the cameras are on you, when people are looking at what you're doing. all the years of experience you've had in the background, that's the bit that actually counts and adds up. And I was thinking about this. I think about it all the time, to be honest. But if that's true, then I suppose the question is, well, why don't teams perform to such a high level all the time, or why do they give the appearance that they do rise to the occasion? And I think my way of framing that is, well, that's the level that they are capable of, like the level of preparation, the time that people have put in throughout their careers, throughout the training, throughout with all the coaching. That's what they are capable of. So it's just they just don't meet those standards on a regular basis.
Yeah, I agree. Go ahead, sorry.
And then when you think about why, well, it's a case of, well, what's your mindset? What's your state? What's your mental outlook for that performance? Have you done everything as you would normally do it? Have you done everything that's required to perform at that level? Have you envisioned it in your mind that that's where you need to be? So working with Berry now, I've spoken at great length with the rest of the management team that we know every team that we play against, because of who we are, where we've come from, the support that we have, everyone is going to want to beat us. Everyone's going to want to get one up on us. It's like your evil twin that just wants to do you over. So everyone is going to be at 10 out of 10 every time they play us, just because of who we are. Whereas for us to perform at 10 out of 10 every week is very, very tough.
Mm-hmm.
But that just means that our 7 or 8 out of 10 has to be better than their 10. So we have to prepare to that level where we know that even if we have a bad day, even if everything doesn't click, can we do the basics well enough to make sure we still get the result that we want?
Yeah, and it's true, because it's hard to be elite all the time. It's hard to be on your best game all the time. And I think as you get up in the higher level of sport, I think it's also disrespectful to think that you should win every game.
Yeah.
Because you've got an opposition, regardless of the sport, you've got 11 players, 5 players, whatever it is, that are professionals, that are taking their job and what they have to do seriously, and they're preparing just as hard as you. So that's where it comes, the preparation kind of throughout the week. Practice should be fun, but it should be fun working hard. So when you go out on the field and you just kind of let it go and you just play, but you've got to remember that there's other dudes on other teams. There's other players, there's other athletes that are just as good. But it's kind of cliche, the talent. Talent will be. I'm going to absolutely butcher this, but hard work will beat talent when talent doesn't work hard.
Nailed it.
Nailed it.
You did butcher that, so you nailed that.
It does.
Imagine.
So I coached at a university in America called Dixie State, and we were a Division II school, and we had a tight end that came in. So his younger brother, Jake Duncan, was my starting middle linebacker. So I coached the linebackers and was the special teams coordinator there. Jake was my starting middle linebacker. What a stud. What a dude. Then all of a sudden he's like, hey, my brother wants to come play. So, okay. So we open the door and here's this 6'4.5", 270-pound dude that just wants to play tight end. So he had some issues at school, had to go to a junior college, but he came to us with about 25 Division I scholarship offers. But he just wanted to play the last couple of years with his younger brother. So this kid came in. He ended up playing for us for 2 years, All-American, tight end, was invited to the Senior Bowl, ended up signing with the Denver Broncos. But to go there, so you've got Jake and Joe Don Duncan, our 2 best players, were also our hardest working players. They were our best dudes. They were also our hardest working dudes. And what a difference that makes to a team. So if you can captivate and catch those guys that want to work hard, that are there for the right reasons and do it, and have fun while they're doing it. Like, I loved watching them in the gym. Now, Joe Don Duncan was a 500-pound plus bencher. Like, crazy, 200 plus kilo bencher, for fun. And it brought everybody on, so that's where it comes to, is talking about how people raise their game and drop their game, raise their game and drop their game. I think, you know, throughout life, once you get to a certain level of things, you have to try and stay there, because I think you've got to stay ready so you don't have to get ready, because getting ready is the hard part. Prepping and, you know, regardless of what you're doing in life, if you've got an interview for a specific company, do your research on the company. That's you getting ready, but you've stayed ready so that you know how to interview, because having an interview is have a skill within itself. So you have to stay ready as much as you can so you don't have to get ready. And that's in life, you know, being ready when something happens, you know, and that's why I'm grateful. You know, I've been really unfortunate with some injuries and things in my career. You know, as I look back now, with things were going really well for me in football. I had a couple of different NFL things maybe panning out, and then I get an injury. Well, what if? Can't dwell on what ifs, you know. But I am so ready. I'm so grateful that there's been these incredible, people talk about miracles and things. I'm so grateful that there's physicians and surgeons that stayed ready. So then they didn't have to get ready when I had an injury, you know. So regardless of the field you're in, regardless of where you are in your life, I think everybody should really try to be as ready as they can for whatever's coming next. And that's where success is earned, and that's where the joy is. Because how hard is it to go out and do something when you're not prepared? And
incredibly tough, isn't it? Incredibly tough when it's that last moment and the final hour, and then you've got to go and get all your stuff to get you. Like, if you're not ready mentally, physically, you know, it's so hard to just turn it on and actually perform at that point, isn't it?
But it's the hard work through the process. I don't know if you know, there was a guy, a good friend of mine, and I coached him at BYU. His name was Austin Collie. And even to this day, he was drafted in the 4th round by the Indianapolis Colts. And he played about 4 or 5 years in the NFL, but he got a bunch of concussions. But I've never been around a dude that worked so hard. After practice, he would stand with a jugs machine and would he would catch 100 balls in a row before he would go back in and get showered. If he was at 96 and he dropped a ball, he'd start over. And he ended up, I mean, he was quick, he wasn't the fastest. I've never seen a guy run better routes in my life. I've never seen a guy create opportunities and work as hard in my life. But he caught everything. He caught everything. I remember watching him play for the Indianapolis Colts, and he's lying there, I think unconscious, and he's still got the ball in his hands, you know. And he was unfortunate with injuries, but what a dude. And what an inspiration for me to be able to see that, you know, as a young guy, as a grad assistant, a young coach, to see dudes that were really the best at their craft, but watch them become that through hard work and preparation, and then taking the onus on themselves, you know, because it's what you do away from. And you'll know that yourself in your career now, as you're preparing people and helping people and training people. I mean, you maybe only get them, maybe, I don't know, 2 or 3 times a week for an hour. Well, if they're not going away and they're not stretching while they're gone, they're not eating the right things, they're not sleeping, they're not doing those things away, then they come to you, they're not going to be progressing like you hope, you know. So it's what you do away from the actual activity is where the most amount of success can be had, I believe.
Yeah, there might be a few people sitting down, tuning in, listening to this now while driving in the car, thinking, "Shit, I should probably get back to stretching. I should go and shouldn't have had that to eat this morning, or I should definitely not do that this afternoon." Get in the gym, get on with it.
Just go. That's the hardest part about going to the gym, is just going. You know, we're all control, and that's the thing. You know, I enjoy good food. I do. I enjoy a treat now and again, but I'm not going to let that dictate me how I do things. You know, and it's always interesting to me. People are always worried, right? And I've trained people for years. They always worry about how many calories did I burn off during this workout, when not once do they worry about the calories they're consuming. You know, and that it just comes down to education. And I'm glad the people have got people like you, Alec, where you're trying to educate, because that's what it comes down to. The more you know, the more you know. And it's cool.
it's making it a part of who you are, isn't it? Making it a part of your personality. Like, I think something that I've definitely picked up from you is your personality and the way that you respond to setbacks, respond to adversity, respond to whether it's injury or something, work life, having to move away from America again, and various things like that. The way that you overcome it and frame it in your own mind, that again, that rebound becomes part of who you are and the ability to deal with problems. And I think probably a lot of people forget that we've all overcome a lot in life, any situation, whatever it is. Everyone's overcome something, but we forget about those experiences. And then when we're faced with something new, it's like, holy shit, I don't know how to deal with this.
Yeah.
In reality, if you think about it, you do.
You do.
Like,
The thing, regardless of what it is, everybody has something. And it's not about, oh, their problems are bigger than mine or my problems are. Everybody's got something, regardless of what it is. But how do we deal with that? Do we let the problem dictate to us how we respond? Or do we respond our way through the situation? Stuff's going to happen. Are we going to let it come, and are we going to let it kind of beat on us? Are we going to address it, take a deep breath, look at what we've got, and try and deal with it the best way that we possibly can? And you have to do that by moving forward. And you look back, and the experiences that you've had in the past are propelling you forward so that you can deal with situations as they come. I'm sure everybody's been through something, and while they're in the midst of it, they're like, oh, this is the worst thing in the world. I can't handle this. This is terrible. They get through it and they're like, actually, that wasn't too bad. I was able to deal with that. And then something else comes, but we forget real quick. I think human beings we're quite quick to forget, but I'm a big proponent. It's we don't have many things that we're in control of, and you've got to control the controllables. And generally, I believe that the controllables are our behavior, our actions, and how we do things. That's it. And people say, well, the attitude, and that, your attitude's never going to change if your behavior is the same.
Do you know what I I saw it when I was logging into my coaching app earlier this morning to do some of my programming. There was a quote from it. It comes up with a little quote every time you log in, and there was Jack Sparrow, and it said, "The problem isn't the problem. The problem is your attitude about the problem." And that's it.
It's true. Yeah. And that's it. I mean, your attitude will never change if you're doing the same thing.
Pearls of wisdom from Jack Sparrow.
I know.
But
Captain Jack, he's great. But it's true. It is. It's like, everything can be overwhelming. Well, it's overwhelming because you've not maybe experienced that before. You've not been in that situation before, but you are now. So you better adapt real fast, or you're going to just be engulfed and you'll get swallowed up by it. And you can't do that. It's cliche, it's not the destination, it's the journey. Well, you'll never reach destination if you don't go on a journey. Life isn't smooth sailing at all. And especially right now with everything that's going on, I think some people have been thrust in or thrown into things right now that they never ever thought they would have to be. But you know what? Each day you wake up, you've got a different opportunity to go do something really cool. Are you going to let 2020 be the year that destroyed you or bring you down? Or are you going to allow it to be the year that propelled you into something magnificent in the future? For me, I'm going to make this a year that propels me, regardless of what on, to something spectacular down the line. Because yeah, life's frustrating. I can't go do the things I want to do. I love to be on the road. I love to travel. I love to be able to be with my team members and do things all over the world. And right now I can't. But we have to adapt. It's kind of not to be morbid or anything, but you better adapt or die. That's what's going. Yeah. You have to be able to change and progress and move, because I don't believe, I had an experience several years ago when I was a kid. There was something I wanted to do really, really, really bad. And I did everything I possibly could to do this. I really did.
What was it?
So I was, years ago when I was younger, I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and I wanted to serve a mission for my church.
Yeah.
And I was a little bit older than other missionaries, and I prepared myself and I did everything I possibly could. and submitted the paperwork to go, and I was told I couldn't go. Not for anything I had done, but it just wasn't timing or whatever. And I started to get really, really upset, because it's hard work. It's hard when you want to do something that you feel is right. You want to do something that you feel is good, and you can't do it. That's when it gets hard. But I got a really cool letter from somebody, and he told me that in life, you can't dwell on things in the past. You can't look back on your life and worry about things that didn't happen, or worry about things that went wrong, because regression is the complete opposite of progression. And I like to use the analogy when I do different seminars or teachings or talk to people about driving a car. You've got this big, massive windshield and a tiny, tiny little rear view mirror. Are the things behind you important? The things in the past important? They are, but they're nowhere near as important as the things in front of you. And that letter kind of changed my life, because it put the things in perspective. Yeah, I wanted to do all these things. I wanted to do all that, or the choices I've made in the past, how they affect me. But I wanted to progress. And I wasn't allowing myself to progress because I was regressing and worrying about things that had happened in the past. And I find a lot of people do that. A lot of people talk about, but do you remember when? That's great. Take those experiences, take them inside, break them down, put them where you need to go, compartmentalize, do whatever you need to do, and use them for good going forward. And I learned a lot from one of my best friends. His name's Scott Brumfield. We coached together for years. You've spoke with Scott, great guy. Yeah. Now that's a guy that's been through a lot of stuff. He's been through a lot of stuff, and he would always everything that we do is so that we can better help and serve others. You think the experiences we have are just for us? They're not, because somewhere down the line, if you create an opportunity, you're going to come around people that have had similar experiences, that need somebody to talk to, need somebody to lean on, somebody to help them move forward and propel forward. And that's what I believe, good, bad, or whatever the experience is, it allows us to go forward and to better serve on our way. And I believe that's why we're here on this earth, is to serve people, help people. What a lonely world it is when you do everything on your own. You know what? You're a kicker, But no, we have these experiences, and we go through things, and we work hard, and you sacrifice. And at times, the sacrifice doesn't seem worth it. At times, it feels so hard. But there comes a point when you have that, per se, that kind of light bulb moment where it's like, oh yeah, now I see why I had to do that, so I can do this. And that's kind of through my experiences in sport and life and business and family, whatever it is, that those are opportunities for growth through trials or hardship are sometimes the greatest blessings of our entire life. They really are.
Do you know what? I think I'm getting neck ache because I'm just kind of sat here nodding along. Like, I cannot disagree with a single thing you've said there. And hopefully everyone else is kind of like the same, just like, my God, the guy's right. But that's pretty much the entire reason that I wanted to start doing this podcast. I mean, speaking to a lot of my clients and, various other people who like yourself I've spoken to before, we don't seem to be able to appreciate or know what other people have been through. Like we just see the end result. We see the Instagram, the Facebook, Twitter, unless someone's sounding off about how terrible life is, we don't necessarily have a good picture of what people are going through. And I've seen people go through some horrendous circumstances, and you just think, well, it's not just you, is it? These things happen all the time to more people than you know about. Like, even if you think everyone's got something squared away, more often than not, you scratch a little bit beneath the surface, and there's something there where, you think, my God, I didn't know that about this person, or I didn't know they'd been through that. I didn't know that kind of thing was going on.
Yeah, and I think it's hard because in today's society, everything is on social media. Everything's good. Everything's this, everything's whatever. And then you get people that use the platform for, life's tough, life's hard. But everybody, as I said earlier, everybody's got something. And I think in life, you know, we should first seek to understand, then be understood. And that's why, you know, when we had our conversation, I was all about I love to ask questions. I love people. I think people are the coolest thing in the world. I love cultures. I love people. I love country. I love everything because we're all the same, but we're all very different. We're all the same in terms of we need sustenance, we need food and water, we need love, whatever it is, that hierarchy of needs, we all need that. But we're all different. We're motivated by different things. We've experienced different things. But we all need the same things. And I have a lot of people that get so frustrated with me because they'll send me a message or send me a call. Hey, how are you doing? And I don't respond with an answer. I respond with, how are you doing? What's going on? You know, and I asked you first. I'm like, well, how are you doing? What's going on? Because I love, and what I'm trying to do is create a connection. Things are okay, and then I'll be like, oh, okay, this is what's going on in their life. You know, seek first to understand. And I find, and I'm sure anybody that's listening to this and yourself that is a servant, you're a servant, you're here to serve people, you work hard for people, you create an opportunity for people to have success. If they go do it, brilliant. If they don't, you've done your part, you know. But I think so many people get caught up in the me. Too many me monsters in this world. My greatest successes, my greatest joys, I've been able to stand back and watch other people do amazing things, and knowing that I've had this maybe a little small part of that, or help guide them, or push them, or prod them, or teach them, or help them in such a way, just to reveal, as you say, scratch back the surface. Some people don't know what they're capable of.
Yeah.
We are our biggest doubters. Fear, false expectations appearing real. You know, and I like, you know, the movie Cool Runnings. You know, when he's standing in the mirror, what do you see? And he's telling him, his dad's coming to get him, and no, what do you see in the mirror? That's what you should be doing. I know it kind of sounds cliche or dumb, but you should look at yourself in the mirror and tell yourself that you're capable of great things. Yeah, it's going to be hard. Yeah, you got to go against the grain sometimes. It's easy just to go through the motions. But what does that do? That doesn't change you. That doesn't change things around you. That doesn't make your relationships better. Falling in love, the biggest risk you'll ever take. Being vulnerable, the biggest risk you'll ever take. Taking a chance, knowing that you might lose, knowing that you might fail, but you might not. Bronco Mendenhall had a big thing. He was a what-if guy. Like, here we are, BYU, you know, tough guys, smart guys. I mean, we were always had the most academic players, but what if? What if you can have, people say, well, you've got to practice so many hours a day, and if you don't focus on just football, then you're not going to have success. Well, what if you can have a great football program? What if you can have great academics? What if you can have a great home life? What if you can have great relationships? What if you can really take care of the things that are important to your faith, your family? What if you can have all those things? And I believe you can. And it's about controlling the controllables. Okay. Oh, but there's just not enough hours in a day. Get up a half hour earlier. Create time, you know, and that's, people say, well, if it's important to you, you'll find a way. If it's not, you'll find an excuse, or you'll find a way out. And what I love about kind of life right now is that we've all been thrust to adapt or not, you know. Everybody, I mean, I was in America when you guys all went into that big lockdown here. I don't know how you guys did it. I didn't have it. I was still able to go out and do things that I was doing. But people have had to adapt, work from home, Zoom calls. It's fun. We on a Saturday night, my family, I've got family all over the world. We have a family Zoom call on a Saturday night at 6 o'clock.
See, I have a family Zoom call as well, but I had to rebrand it and rename it as the family argument.
All right.
Because we had some tough times on that conversation, yeah. I tell you.
But it's true. Some people do it. It's been great though. But
it was great when we were doing quizzes, when we're doing sort of like little treasure hunts around the houses and stuff like that. But I had to rebrand it as family argument, because as soon as it got into beliefs and politics and things like, oh my God, it changed.
We just leave that stuff. We don't even get in there.
That's a good idea.
Yeah. So I've got a brother that lives in America. I've got cousins all over, and there's maybe normally like 40 of us on this call or something. And I've missed a couple just with different things. My family has never missed a Saturday since March. How cool is that? You know, and I think it's really cool. We've had to adapt. We've had to change through different things. Sometimes it's choices we make that cause certain things, or sometimes it's our sphere of influence that does something, or just sometimes it's just something. But you've got to be able to, I guess, stay true to the things that you want. And you know, this is a lot of things I do when I set new goals for myself. Okay, what's my why? Why am I doing this? What is it that causes me to get up in the morning? What is it that creates this fire in my soul to go do this, to go through the hard things, to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, to go running, or to do something when it's dark and rain and miserable, when it's much easier to lay in your bed? What is it that drives me when I open the fridge and there's a strawberry tart there, or there is a fruit salad? What is it, you know, where? And that's it. If you don't have a why, you're going to struggle. If you don't have something that's going to keep you to what you need to do, then you're going to struggle. So I think it's important that, okay, everybody wants, okay, what's your goal? But people forget that to attain this goal, there's got to be incremental things. And there's going to be successes and struggles all the way up until you reach that and attain. And, you know, whether it be weight loss, okay, somebody wants to lose 4 stone. You're not going to lose 4 stone overnight. Let's focus on that first couple pound. How do we address that first initial change in order to proceed on, you know? And that's where I think people get lost. They get lost in worrying about the end part instead of the here and now, and that's controlling the controllables. You can't control things that are way down the line, but you can control what you do now.
Yeah, it's important, isn't it, to ask yourself the questions of, you know, where do I want to go? What direction do I want to move in? Where do I need to start? And then, you know, you don't focus on where you want to be in 12 months, 5 years, 10 years. You don't focus on that. You might pay a bit of attention to it every day and do a bit of visualization to kind of pull you in that direction, to maybe motivate you to get out of bed earlier in the morning, get up at 5, go for the run, do the hard things and do the graft. But your focus and your attention is on the immediacy of this is what I need to do. And I mean, I've just done the quick maths there about, you know, when you say get up an extra half an hour earlier, if you get up just a half an hour early every single day, you get an extra 182 hours per year. Mm-hmm. And that's over an extra week. That's about 7.6 days, 7.5 days worth of extra living time.
Yeah.
Which is, well,
it's only a half hour a day.
Significant. Like, think about what you could do in that amount of time.
And the thing is, it's only hard the first couple of days.
I mean, one of the things that I've always been a massive advocate of is, obviously, we know the saying, like, how you do one thing is how you do everything. But you have to look at life from the perspective of every single thing you do, whether it's something that someone else asks you to do it, and it's not for your benefit. If it's to benefit someone else, how you do that thing is still massively involved in how your character develops, because you know whether you've done it to the best of your ability or not. Yes, you know whether you've done it with good intentions or a good heart, whether you've done a good job. And every single thing, every single moment contributes towards your character and who you are as a person. So are you living to that standard? Are you living in the direction that you want to go in, who you want to be, who you want to be for other people, who you want to be for yourself, what you want to achieve and have for yourself? You know, that comes about by the way that you do everything.
That's exactly right. And the only person that you can't lie to is yourself. Like, if you think that you've done everything the best you can, if you look in the mirror and you tell yourself, well, I did everything the best I could today, you know you're lying, or you know you're not. And you're right, it's character, integrity. You know, there was a study that I read several years ago, and they were talking about what motivates people, you know, and they were talking, well, okay, if we give them more money, they'll do it. Okay, but are we going to get the very best job that they can do if we give them more money? Okay, we'll give them time off, whatever it is. But then what they did, they found out through this study that if you give somebody autonomy, the ability to make it their own, that's where the pride comes into it. That's where the value of self-worth comes into it. Knowing that, okay, Alex, you're going to be judged basically on your work. It's you. Then you're going to do the best that you possibly can. It's almost like an honor culture, you know. On my honor, I promise to do the very best I can for nothing other than knowing that you've done the best, you know. But if somebody says, okay, if you get this finished in a week, you'll get a bonus, they're just going to try and just fire through and get it done, regardless of the quality, right? But it's ownership, autonomy. And it's a really cool thing, because you just hit it right on the head. Like, the best thing that you can do is to be responsible for you, and knowing that you've given the very best that you can, and then you lie exhausted knowing that you've done the best that you can. There's a great quote by Vince Lombardi: the greatest feeling is lying on the battlefield. He's talking about a football field. At the end of it, lying there exhausted, knowing that you're victorious.
And again, that football field, you can replace that for any moment in your life. Like, you don't have to play football to appreciate that quote. You could be thinking, well, you know, in comparison to my work day, what I wanted to do with my family, put it into a context that is suitable for you. What resembles you? What's important to you in your life?
And thing is, it's hard. I don't know what it's like to be a parent. I'm not a parent. I don't know what it's like to be married. I'm not married. But I think relationships regardless, they require sacrifice, patience. They requires giving up a little bit of you so that person can get a little bit of them. But regardless of the situation you're in, it's all the same. It's all the same: working hard, doing the best you can, being able to provide a space for other people to have success, and then that helps you have success. Not that you don't do it to your detriment. I think there's a fine line sometimes, but you've got to try and do the very best that you can and bring as many people along with you as you can. And that's where it's a really cool thing to know that, you know, when you can work hard, and then you can work hard collectively in a group of people, knowing that everybody's doing the best that they can, and then at the outcome that you celebrate. And that's where I have sometimes, I love the UK, I love home, I love Scotland, but sometimes I think we don't celebrate the small stuff enough over here. Whereas
the Americans definitely do.
They do, and they should. And they're, you know, I get a hard time, like, oh, people are so fake over there. I'm like, no, when you go drive through and buy a sandwich, or you drive through whatever, have a great day. They mean it. You know, and they should celebrate the small successes. And
we definitely need a little bit more than that, a bit more of that in our country.
Oh, we do. 100%. I believe so, 100%. You know, and it's the thing is, it's because you, as you said earlier on, you, especially now, I think it's more prevalent than it ever has been, kind of the struggles people go through: mental health, physical health, emotional health, all these different things. You never know. You never know what's going on. You never know the type of day somebody's been having. But you can leave that person, that situation, that circumstance better for you having been there by just saying hello. My mum told me when I was a kid, Robert, when you make eye contact, make sure you establish and acknowledge that you've created a relationship. Like, just say, how are you doing? Have a great day. People sometimes look at me weird when I'm walking about the shops and I'm like, hey, how you doing? Somebody I've never met before, they're like, what? But you never know. You never know what that person's dealt with that day.
Yeah. I mean, so my intention as a trainer has always been to, you know, aim to be my client's best moment of the day. Try and provide.
I love that.
Them with a feeling that he's going to outdo everything else that's gone on during the day. And if you can do that, you've made a significant difference. Like, it doesn't matter how many dumbbell presses, cleans, or deadlifts you do. It's completely irrelevant. It doesn't matter what they've eaten. If you go away and you go into the session and you send them away with that positive feeling, you've made a massive, massive difference. And I think one of the things, I mean, I generally always use like self-service checkouts and stuff like that if I'm, you know, just wanting to get things done and just not really have to speak to everyone all the time. But there'll be some times where I'll be walking through a supermarket, and especially when it's quiet. So this is the difference. When it's quiet, I will deliberately look for someone that's working there, someone that's sat on a till, not doing anything, looks miserable, bored to tears, wants to just not be there, would rather be anywhere else but there. And I will deliberately go to their checkout, go through there and have a chat with them and, aim to make their day, even in a 2-minute conversation where, technically they're serving me, but can I influence them? Can I impart some positive feeling onto their day? And, their response then to the next customer is probably going to be remarkably different. So if you can change the way that people feel, that's what they'll remember. That's what they'll then use to take on with anything else. Because I don't think there aren't many people who will go out there with bad intentions to either upset someone or be like vindictive or influence someone in a negative way. But if you can impart a little bit of positive energy, that then has that knock-on effect, and that's
that's it's so true, and I think those are the things that people need.
Yeah.
To feel valued, to feel empowered, to feel happy, to feel these different things. And that can sometimes come just from a hello. How are you doing? How's your day been? To feel important. Because as you say, somebody's sitting at the checkout, all they're doing is this all day long. And for somebody to go out their way to come over and say, hey, how are you doing? How's your day been? It gives them the, what?
Yeah, if you can, like, I think Tony Robbins talks about this all the time. If you can change their state or change their pattern that they're thinking or working in, if you can break that cycle,
yep,
they essentially then get out of their own way, and then they start acting in accordance with who they are, who they want to be, rather than just like being stuck in the motions of doing stuff like that.
Yeah.
I want to go back to, so I meant to ask you this probably about 45 minutes ago when you first mentioned it. When you were in America, you were going through a period where, quite a few things were going on football-wise, progressing through the levels, potentially going into the NFL. What happened with that situation, if you don't mind going through that?
So that was kind of like an injury. So I've been working away and training, and I was in school. So I got the chance to play football at East Carolina. So I went to school at East Carolina for a couple of years, and it was a struggle. I got in, but I was classed as ineligible, and then I was classed as eligible, and I had this whole big kind of proceeding going on with the NCAA, because the way we do things here in the UK is a little bit different than what they do in the US. So as far as for people here that don't understand the NCAA, you can't, it's amateurized sport. So you can't play a sport professionally and go back and play that sport in college. So I had been signing contracts since I was 8 years old.
And was this after you'd played for the Scottish Claymores?
Yes.
As well,
yes.
Yeah.
So kind of in theory, I was ineligible. But our appeal was, well, I didn't realize what I was getting into when I signed. I didn't realize it would inhibit me from these different things. But anyway, so I cut a long story short, I spent 2 years working like crazy to be eligible, and it didn't transpire. It didn't work out. And it was a great experience. I met great people. I was coached by Skip Holtz, who is Lou Holtz's son, the famous Lou Holtz. But Skip Holtz was an amazing man, an amazing coach, and he's still coaching now. He coaches at Louisiana Tech and doing a great job down there. But I had some great coaches, fantastic coaches, and teammates that kind of helped me as I worked through this. It's hard, okay, you're eligible to play, and then the day of, you're not eligible, so there's this always this emotional kind of roller coaster. But anyway, so I wasn't allowed to play. So I kind of looked at some different opportunities, and I transferred out to BYU. And an opportunity arose. I bumped into the head coach there, and he offered me a job. So I was working hard on different things and still kicking and still staying in shape. And my agent was still working on some things for me. And I had the opportunity. I was getting ready to go out possibly west out to the San Francisco 49ers for a trial. And this is a couple of weeks beforehand. I'm in great shape. I'm feeling good. I'm excited to go. And I was playing kickball with some friends. And it was kind of at a baseball field. And a bunch of our buddies had set up. So from third base to home plate, they had put a slip and slide. Well, as you shake your head, you know what's coming, right?
Yeah.
So I'm out we're having a great time. There's maybe about 100 plus of us just having a great time. We've got the grills on, the barbecue. We're having a great time. And anyway, I kick the ball, home run. I'm just jogging around the bases, and I get to the third base. I'm running back, and a guy that was there who was on my team, but I didn't really know him, was kind of celebrating. He jumped on my back, and I slipped, and my knee went backwards, snapped backwards, and as I've kind of thrown him off, he's landed on the side of my knee. So I tore my ACL, my MCL, tore the meniscus, and the PCL. So I pretty much had to have complete knee reconstruction. And that was it. And I was kind of never the same after that. You know, I got back strong and healthy, and I don't have any kind of real limitations. But in order to play at that level, my knee was never the same. And it was over just like that, you know. And the NFL's tough. I mean, I couldn't go out for a tryout, so they get somebody else, you know.
Yeah, it's just a revolving door, isn't it? There's no
unless you're there to do your job, and you do your job well, they don't worry about it until you can't. And you know, it was a shame. One of my good friends was a coach at the 49ers at the time, but that's just life.
Yeah.
But as I look back now, it was maybe singly the greatest thing that happened, because I ended up staying at BYU for 5 years, coaching at BYU for 5 years, being around Coach Mendenhall's staff, Paul Tidwell, and now kind of we grad assistants together, Kelly Papinga, Nick, all these guys that are now, they're all coaching at the University of Virginia. You know, being around these guys, being around these unbelievable young men changed my life. That place changed my life. The perspective that I got, you know, and the medical staff, it was our team physician, Dr. Kirk Kimball, did my surgery. I did all my rehab through BYU, and to be able to be there, get an education, grow as a human being, grow as a person, a young man, and I'd like to say become a man through different things, and be around that. Best of a worst circumstances you could probably think of, you know. And if I say I would change it, I would be lying, because you know, say it didn't happen, I went out there and something did. You never know what's going to happen. But what an experience, what an opportunity. And you have to look at it, and you can't dwell on what if. You can control the what if, not dwell on the what if. And I threw myself into recovery. I threw myself into learning. And I decided at that point, because it was a really hard injury, I had a lot of post-surgery complications. I got really sick. I nearly died. I had infections. And honestly, it was terrible.
Sorry, I really shouldn't laugh, but
it's brutal. But I
mean, basically, like, the injury that you described is, well, that's what you call the knee having a very bad time.
Bad day.
Like, that's about pretty much as bad as it gets. It doesn't really get much worse than that at all, does it?
But I just, you know, our team physician, Kirk Kimball, happened to be a knee specialist. He specialized on knees and shoulders. Brilliant. Did my surgery great. My body doesn't do well kind of in surgical situations at times, and I struggled, but I have never felt more loved and supported by the people. I remember, so this was a kind of maybe a month or so after the first procedure. So I had some complications in my leg. They did a patella graft on my knee, so your leg has to stay in a straight leg brace. And I had some different complications, so I was in and out, but then my leg wouldn't bend, so they had to do some manipulation. So anyway, I just had a real hard time for that kind of few months following. And I remember I was lying at home, and I've got my leg's in an ice machine, and it's on this, strapped into this machine that bends your knee. The machine bends. So you're not activating your quad to bend your knee. The machine's doing all the work for you. And what it's trying to do is just stop scar tissue building up within the knee joint, you know. But my knee was this big, my thigh was this big, and I was in a lot of pain. And I called my doctor. I called Dr. Kimball. I said, hey, Doc, there's something wrong here. I don't feel good, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, he sent me out an ambulance. And the ambulance came, and I hadn't spoke to anybody. The ambulance came, and I get into the hospital. They take me through, and they put me in a room. And the room they put me in, Coach Mendenhall's sitting in that room. And I'm like, Coach, what are you doing here? He goes, I don't know, Robert. I just had a feeling I had to come over here right now. And him and I sat there, and typical Coach Mendenhall took an opportunity to teach, and teach with love, and put me in a position where I was able to learn. And at that point, I realized that I was in the right place at the right time with the right people. And it was up to me to whether I decided to be upset and angry that I'd had this injury, or be happy that I was now in a situation where I can become a better person and grow and learn. And to this day, he probably doesn't realize the influence he's had on my life, you know. But I did, and I embraced it. I worked like crazy. I got healthy, and I learned in the process. We had some great experiences at BYU, went to lots of bowl games, won lots of football games, and that's great. But what I was able to accomplish, and the things I was able to do, and the things I was able to learn from being around these great players and coaches was priceless, you know.
I mean, I suppose looking back, it's probably a little bit easier to find, you know, those moments of gratitude where you were in the right place, you were surrounded by the right people, things worked for you, where you can find a way to kind of create that story where it did actually work in your favor. But I suppose at that moment in time, when, you know, you're potentially on the verge of joining the 49ers, or you're about to have a trial with them and kick for them, so as an athlete, as a sportsman, how did you, or what do you think contributed to you being able to actually overcome that, what must have been disappointment, to then decide, I'm not going to let this define me. I'm going to work hard at it. I'm going to come through it and be a better person as a result.
Well, it's devastating. It's devastating, and because sports was my life. I wasn't good at a lot of things. I really wasn't. But I found if I worked hard, I was pretty decent as a sports person. I was decent, you know, not the fastest, not the strongest, not the most, but I worked hard, and and it was so disappointing. And you know yourself, if you're forced to give something up, it's horrible. You know, even any sport, players that play for 20 years and they retire, that's 20 years of their life where they've had this regime that whatever it is. But I really struggled. I was a disaster for a while, for a couple months. I was a disaster. Lying in a hospital bed, my knee in the air, just drugged up to the eyeballs because I was in so much pain, and crying every night, trying to blame somebody, trying to find out where this guy lived that jumped on my back, that ruined my life, and all the things that I wanted to do to him. And it was horrible. And it took me to a really dark place. But I had to decide that I didn't want to be in that dark place, because it's not a great place to be. It's lonely, it's horrible, it's disgusting, it's miserable. I was angry at my family, I was angry at friends, I didn't want to see anybody, didn't want to speak to anybody. But there comes a point where you have to say, okay, do I want to keep going down this way, this feeling of misery, this disgusting place where I don't want to be alive? Because there was a point, honestly, where I thought, I would pray, please, God, just, I'm done. But I was in my 20s. I had so much life ahead. I had so much ahead of me.
And what was that? What was that moment? Because I mean, how did that come about?
I think it was. I don't think there's a. There was really a defining one thing, but I think it was the persistency of being valued and being loved. Even though I wanted to be on my own, my players would come every day. Coach Mendenhall and the staff would come every day. I'd get deliveries, I'd get packages, I'd get friends, I'd get phone calls. So eventually I just kind of almost got wore down, you know, but I had to make a decision, you know, and sometimes people feel alone and sometimes people are alone. But sometimes people knew I was going through a hard time because they did, you know, they knew. But I think some people go through a hard time and people don't know because they don't share that they're going through a hard time. And it comes down to the fact that when you're going through hard things, we should be able to share that with the people that we love and care about. And that comes from, it can come both ways. We either share it with them or we ask the questions, you know. And I, you know, I had a great group of players. I had a great support at the time, but I was angry and bitter. And anybody that's been angry and bitter and miserable knows that it's not a good place to be. It's not. There's no joy. I'd lost my appetite. I couldn't eat. I even went off ice cream, which for me is a crazy thing, you know. But there was a few defining moments. I had a great conversation with some friends and some peers, and I was reminded that this trial didn't have to define me. What I was going through right now didn't have to impact me the way it was. I had a choice, and it came down to me solely. And once again, it comes down to the autonomy, the ability to control the controllables. I couldn't control what happened when the injury happened. I couldn't control that. I couldn't control what I was going through. I couldn't control how my body was responding to Medicaid. But what I could control was how I dealt with things. And there was a lot of prayers said. There was a lot of tears, as I said. There was a lot of angry feelings that had to be let go. But I remember having an experience and I just took a big deep breath and I just let it go. And at that point, my body started to heal better. I was able to do different things, and then I was recovering, and then I had another setback. I was getting released from the hospital and I was in having a shower, and I came out and I couldn't breathe. I was struck and I passed out anyway. I had thrown some blood clots. The blood clots got into my lungs, back again. But it was amazing how this time around I was like, cool, we can deal with this.
Yeah.
And I don't believe, as I said earlier, I believe we're on this earth to serve others and help others. I don't believe we're on this earth to go through things alone. And that's where the responsibility lies within us to help people. Don't be scared to say hello. Don't be scared to ask somebody how they're doing. If you're going through hard things, don't be too proud to share it. Don't think it's a lack of being tough if you don't share. Talk to somebody, reach out to somebody, you know, and this is where, with everything that we're going through right now, you know, and I've got my opinions on certain things, but, you know, let's educate people on how to train, to exercise, to eat the right things, to stimulate our bodies physically, emotionally, spiritually, psychologically. Do the things that help your body release certain chemicals that puts a smile on your face instead of making you feel depressed. Doing these things that can have an impact not only on you, but also everybody that you're round about. And it just comes from doing a little couple of different things different each day and a different perspective, you know. And I did, and after that I felt like I was 10 foot tall and bulletproof. I don't care what comes, I can deal with this. And things are hard, I can deal with it. And I think it just comes from, you know, I don't want to say I was feeling sorry for myself, but I was feeling so caught up within myself that I didn't allow myself to see that there was all these different opportunities ahead. And unfortunately nowadays, some people react quite rash, and they don't see that there's something beautiful or something great just around the corner. And that's kind of where I, you know, as I went through things, and regardless of when things are hard, you know, people talk about adversity makes you. Well, it will. Adversity will make or break you, but it's up to you, you know. And that's where kind of we were talking a little bit earlier about our why. What is it that motivates you? What is the end goal here? If you want to be a doctor, then there should be nothing that will stand in your way. If you want to be a mom or a teacher or a PT, whatever it is, find a way and work regardless of what happens, you know. And it's all about having that self-belief. And I know, you know, we've had a lot of different things in my family, and I have a twin sister who struggled with some things in her life. And when we were younger, she was so beautiful and smart and intelligent. She was a swimmer. She could swim for days. She was a dancer. But she had some struggles with feelings of self-worth and self-belief. And it's had an effect on her whole life. And I do believe that throughout life, there's people that come in your life for good, or they come in your life and you have to decide whether they stay or they don't. And throughout life, you're going to have experiences where you have the opportunity to change for good, or you don't. And that's kind of, you know, we talked earlier about everybody has something. Mine's were injuries, mine's were disappointments in certain things. Somebody might lose a job, somebody might lose a loved one, somebody might lose a baby, whatever it is. You have to take that feeling of hurt and disappointment and channel in such a way that you can move forward, and you don't forget, but you allow it to move you forward. Because there's so many different things in life that require things that have happened to you in the past to allow you to be better prepared for things in the future.
I think that's a key thing, isn't it? Where disappointment, failure, whatever it is, shows up in so many forms in everyone's life, and ultimately, you know, our own personal outlook to it is determined by a specific sequence in firing of neurons within our head, obviously in our brain and brain activity, and that's all it is. That's what impacts how we think, how we act, how we behave, what we do. And you almost have to, it sounds like you almost get to a decision, obviously, especially in your case as well, where you recognize and you see yourself for what you are, and you see what's going on and how you're behaving, how you're acting, how you're influencing the rest of the world and the people around you, especially. And then you have to make a decision as to, do I want to be this person? Mm-hmm. And you change that sequencing of, you know, the firing pattern of your neurons inside your brain, and you start to take a different angle, even just a slightly different angle on a few things, and it starts to open doors for you, and you start to find a way forward. And the problem, like, when we get stuck or when we get comfortable, when we get into a specific pattern, we keep replaying the same tape, the same thing over and over and over again. It's almost like playing the same song over and over again every day during your life. If you do that, how bored and suicidal are you going to get over that same track? Even if it's, you know, your favorite ever song, it's going to do your head in. So we have to change it. We have to change the firing pattern of neurons in our brain and figure out a way around it and how to see things slightly differently. And in your case, you use it to your advantage. Then when you do eventually look back, you can look back on some pretty horrendous scenarios and situations, even at your darkest moments where, you know, maybe you didn't want to be on this planet anymore, and you can see it for how it's worked for you rather than how horrendous it was at the time.
Mm-hmm. It is, and it's sometimes you get caught up in the moment, and it's hard, you know. But there's a great story about, I read a story about a pilot, and he was flying a plane across America, and when he set his chart, he was 1 degree out. And you talk about the little things, so you think 1 degree is not very much, but when you fly from East Coast to West Coast, that's like landing in New York or Florida. You know, so that slight little different change in perception, that slight angle, has a huge impact in the long term.
Yeah, it's a long way off.
Yeah, it's a long way off. It's huge.
You'd be pretty disappointed as well, wouldn't you, if you were aiming for Florida and ended up in New York?
Or if you wanted to be in Florida and you end up in New York, you're like, "Damn, I came here for the sun and it's snowing," you know. But we spoke about that yourself, you know, and sometimes we have to make hard choices. You have to eliminate certain things from your life. We spoke a while ago, and I told you about a book by a friend of mine called Chad Lewis called "Surround Yourself with Greatness," and he talks about that, you know. And there's another quote like, "Show me your friends, I'll show you your future." If you want to be a better person, if you want to be the best version of you, you've got to surround yourself with people that can buoy you up, because excitement is contagious. Success, happiness, joy is contagious. And on the flip side of that, so is misery and disappointment and sadness. And sometimes you have to be brave enough to eliminate certain things from your life so that you can better yourself moving forward. And that's it. I think life is sometimes about being very brave. And if some people struggle with that, some people struggle making choices, some people struggle with that. But at the end of the day, you've got to really be able to sit down and kind of focus and look at, okay, this is what I want. Because everybody's got dreams. And I believe dreams are just reality you have to work a wee bit harder for. You can really accomplish anything you want, but you've got to be willing to sacrifice some of the things you have for something that you want. You know, there is a quote that says, you know, if you want something you've never had before, you've got to be willing to do something you've never done before. And there's a lot of hard things that that I think now are more prevalent in the history of the world than they ever have been. You know, we don't have kind of the wars and the different things, especially in our country or the Western world. I mean, there's a lot of bad things going on in the world, but we don't have some of the things that the world has been through in the past. But what we do have are really quite tragic, and they can be so debilitating for some people. But there's one thing that's never changed, or maybe it has changed, because right now we have the ability to do something. Sometimes in the past, the ability to do things was taken away, our ability to choose, our ability to progress. But we have that. We have the ability to love. We have the ability to serve. We have the ability to look at certain things and make a decision. Okay, if I go down this path, it's a no-brainer. I'm going to end up here. If I go this path, it's a no-brainer. I've got an opportunity to be here. And I like opportunity instead of the no-brainer.
That's the thing. Go and find the opportunity. Any problem, any scenario, just go and find the opportunity.
Yeah.
And if you can do that, if you can find it, then make it work.
Isn't it funny though, as you change, you might have this idea of what you want, but as you get closer to it, you're like, actually, I want this, and the things deviate, and as you learn and grow, you kind of change, and that's the beautiful thing about life. Because people say, well, life is hard. Life, you're dang right it is. But why contribute to the hardness of it by having a mentality or a mindset of, oh, everything's good, but there's always a but. And I don't know about you, but when I hear the word but, I'm ready for a negative something after it. How are you doing? Pretty good. Bite your tongue and don't say but, you know, because you're now telling yourself, you're in your mind, you're telling yourself that everything's okay, but there's just this one thing.
Oh, well, I would add to that actually as well. Rather, it's again the way you frame it, the way you say it. So if you're having a conversation with someone, like if I was talking to you and you go, Alex, how's everything going? And I go, yeah, everything's going all right, but and da 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 da. And that's essentially me complaining about something. Whereas if I went, Robert, everything's going great. I need your help.
However, although, yes, it's yes.
And you ask
Yep.
ask the questions. Can someone, there's always a possibility that someone you know can help you with the situation you have.
It's
And even
genius.
if it's someone that you know that, or even if it isn't someone that you know that can help, maybe someone you know knows someone else
Absolutely.
that you could speak to.
Yeah.
You know,
And it's the key to communication, because it's like, it's not what's said, it's what's heard. So if somebody says that everything's good, but the receiver, the recipient of the conversation is now like, oh, here they go, they're going to complain. But the recipient of that, Robert, everything's okay. However, there's something that's really bugging me and I want you to help me. Now I'm actively engaged, like, cool, what can I do?
yeah,
So and the communication is so key. It's not what's said, it's what's heard. And there's a fine line between being able to deliver a message where everybody understands or deliver a message where nobody understands.
yeah.
And it can be just subtly changing a word or the tonality or the context of it. But how different would somebody's day be if they were to say, you know, everything's good, Alex. However, I woke up this morning and I've got this issue and I just don't know what to do about it. Now you've got two brains, somebody with different experiences that can, no, that's genius. It's brilliant. I love that.
Well, like you say, with the recipient, I always find people are always willing to help, as long as you're willing to ask the questions.
Yep.
Whereas if you've got someone, everyone always knows someone who is always complaining, and when you get that person who's always complaining or always says, "Oh, but and this is going on," and so's being a bit of an arsehole or whatever, your willingness to actually go and help that person tends to diminish purely because they complain all the time and it's just pure negative energy, rather than asking the questions, asking for help, asking for a bit of support, asking, or even just, being a bit of a soundboard for someone. I think you actually actively have to be involved in the process of asking the questions and asking for help. And if you don't, you are essentially just complaining for the sake of complaining. And nobody, I think, even with the best intentions in the world, nobody really will go out of their way to help someone that just complains about everything all the time. Because if you are complaining all the time, you're not actively participating in solving your own problem. You're just looking at the problem and telling everyone how bad it is. And that won't fix anything.
No,
So
it doesn't.
find the solution.
Yeah, find a solution. And the thing is, at the end of the day, it's good to talk and communicate, but complaining is hard, because I think 90% of the people don't care about your problem, and the other percent are quite happy you've got a problem because it's bigger than their problem. So sometimes it's good to have that a little shift in your mindset where you can actually go to somebody. And we spoke about this, being brave enough to tell somebody, hey, I'm struggling with this. Can you help me? I used to do it all the time. All the time. I was surrounded by geniuses, and now in my job and my work now, I walk into a room sometimes and I instantly feel like the dumbest guy in the room. I can't help it. I'm surrounded by great people.
So I always think, if you are complaining, you're complaining to the universe, and the universe doesn't care.
Doesn't care.
If you're asking for help, you're speaking to a person, and people care.
There's a lot of people that are just waiting about for the universe to fix their problems, and I, with all respect to anybody who listens to this and the human race, you're not that big a deal when it comes to the universe. You're a huge deal to somebody, but don't complain to the universe. Don't wait for the universe to fix your problems, or no. We've got a great opportunity, and there's people out there, but you never know unless you let yourself be a little bit vulnerable and asking for help.
That's the key to it. It's that vulnerability that you mentioned before as well, isn't it?
And it is.
Definitely.
And I think and I also believe that if you don't ask, you're doing a disservice to other people, because you're denying other people the opportunity to serve you. And I'm the first one to recognize that I need to be better at saying, no, I need help. I'm the first one to recognize that when people are you doing good? I'm great. Like just right now, I'm stuck on crutches and I can't get about much, but I'm fine. Of course, Robert's fine. I don't need anything, but I can't even hobble to the bathroom without being in pain, and I'm fine. Yeah, but I don't want to put anybody out their way. And I'm grateful, I've got family that come by and go to the store for me or whatever. But everybody needs something. I don't think there's anybody on this planet that doesn't need a little help from somebody. And if you do, then I think you're missing out on great opportunities.
Yeah,
but it's a unique thing, and we've kind of talked about it a little bit with kind of all that's going on now. More than ever, we have an opportunity to make ourselves freely available or more available for people that we love, people that we care about, families, friends, and we just have to do that. Seek opportunities to serve. And there was a quote I heard when I was a kid, and it says, service is like peeing your pants. Everybody around you sees you do it, but only you get to feel the real warmth. So right now, even if nobody's asking, look for opportunities to serve. Look, because it'll help you feel better and it'll help them feel better. And I do believe the world right now needs a little bit more giving, a little bit more love. And I do honestly believe, kind of wholeheartedly, that we are way more capable individually than we believe we are. We are way more incredible individually than we believe that we are. We have got so much potential for good things. And we have to try really hard to not compare ourselves to anybody else, because we're us. Be the greatest. If you're a trash man or bin collector, be the best bin collector there ever was. Be prideful of the things that you do, and put the onus on yourself and the responsibility. It's good to have competition. It's good. And I can, when I come down, there'll be some good competition, and it's good to have some competition to compete. But our greatest adversary, I believe, at times is ourselves. We allow ourselves to quit before we should. We allow ourselves to sometimes not even take a chance before we decide that we can't do it.
I'm just thinking there's a flippable version of what you've spoken about, peeing your pants there, and what you're speaking about now in terms of quitting on yourself, quitting early, maybe being selfish. I'd say that's probably the definition of shitting yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, you've done it. Everyone can smell it. No one really wants to be near you. You've you've ruined it for yourself, haven't you? I'm sure there's something in that somewhere.
There is. But I say this, kind of, you've been around I've been really lucky to be around great people, and they never got there by accident. And the world is always going to be full of naysayers, and that's fine. Let them be naysayers. But my hope and my prayer is that people can get rid of the naysayers and have their self-focused in such a way that they can go and accomplish great things, regardless of the roadblocks, regardless of the circumstances, regardless of where they find themselves in. You've got a chance to change. And you do it, I think, by creating routine. You talked about if you got an extra 30 minutes a day, how many hours and weeks that becomes in a year. But we need routine. And routine is where habits are created. And habits, they drive performance. So you've got to create a routine that turns into good habits, and then your performance improves. And but it does, and I've mentioned it a few times, and I'll say it again, you've got to be brave enough to not listen to the things that people say, the doubters, the naysayers, the ones that maybe post something on your social media, or the people that are disrespectful, or, well, I'm going to prove this person wrong. Screw them. Screw the people that don't believe in you. Go out and prove the people that believe in you right. The ones that have got you by your back, that are pulling you forward, that are pushing you forward, that are helping you, that are screaming and cheering for you. Prove those ones right. Don't try and prove anything to anybody that doesn't believe in you. And I think a lot of people get caught up being motivated by the wrong things, or this person, I'm going to prove him wrong. Who cares? Your eye is now focused on something that it doesn't need to be focused on.
I mean, you can do things with a chip on your shoulder and a bit of aggression, and if it helps, throw a bit of fuel on the fire. But
yeah,
ultimately, do it for the people around you, the people that care about you. That's the, because it works both ways, and if you can use both of those things
as a motivator
to throw you forward and to launch you in the right direction, that's far more powerful than just being angry at someone or being angry at the world. Or
because I don't think your mind's clear. You talk to anybody that's done anything successful or whatever it is, the best at the best. Like I remember, like Kobe Bryant, arguably one of the best competitors that's ever played any sport. But he was also the hardest worker. He didn't get there by chance. I read a great story several years ago when he was playing for the US national team. And he was working on a certain throw. And at the time, a friend of mine was on the medical staff or the athletic training staff for the US men's national team. And he said, it was late on at night, everybody was home, and Kobe Bryant was out working on whether it was his 3-pointer or his free throw, whatever it was, he's practicing away. And he wanted to get a certain amount in before he went home. And it was 10 o'clock at night. And this trainer went away home, came back, it's like 4 a.m, and Kobe Bryant's still there, still working. There's a reason people are successful. There's a reason people can throw a football or control a soccer ball. I mean, we just lost arguably one of the greatest soccer players ever, he was incredibly gifted and talented, but you think he didn't work hard? On the streets of Argentina, probably before he had a soccer ball, he was doing keepy-uppies with a stove, whatever, But there's a difference between those that are they look so talented and so gifted, like what they do is just like they're walking down the street. But that didn't happen by accident. And that's what it comes down to, just being able to be brave enough to have something that you want to do, regardless of what it is. And being fueled, being motivated by the right things. Self-motivation is huge. But I think that comes from something we talked about just a little bit ago, celebrating the small things. If you don't celebrate the small things, then it doesn't feel like they've been any sort of accomplishment. You should celebrate the small things, because those are the things that propel you to achieve the great things that people want to achieve.
I think in terms of that talent, hard work balance, the sporting world is probably the best place to kind of see that and observe that in action. Like, I think, obviously in the situation of Maradona, now at the minute you've got, Messi and Ronaldo, how long have we had where those two guys have been at the top?
Yeah.
No one has, in my opinion, no one has come close to matching them and matching their achievements. Like, someone might have had the odd season, or maybe even the odd 1 or 2 seasons, but for them to do what they've done over the course of their careers, you cannot, and no one will replicate that without that hard work. And I always look at, obviously you use those two as an example, and then you look at people maybe like Neymar, who crazy talent, incredibly gifted, but all I ever hear is kind of the stories of him partying, going out, living the high life.
Yeah.
I don't hear about him grinding. I don't. And then I see him rolling around on the pitch, and I think, to me, that creates the impression. You don't know what goes on behind closed doors. He might be an incredibly hard worker. Obviously he's worked hard to a degree to get to where he is, but that for me is why he will never be one of the greats.
Yes.
We look in the NFL, you've got people like Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, guys who've done it, for Ben Roethlisberger as well, who, they've been around 15, 20
almost 20 years.
That kind of achievement in that sport, to perform at that level year in, year out, where you've got essentially the freaks of the freaks who are being promoted to come in and try and take their job, and no one comes close.
No.
They would not be able to sustain that level of performance without that hard work. And looking at the case of Tom Brady, where was he? 6th round draft pick?
7th round. 140, 145th or something like that.
Worst combine performance ever. And for anyone that doesn't
He
know,
still probably ran a faster 40 than me, though.
I mean, you must be pretty slow.
No, I'm kidding. I'm joking. I was flying.
Say, surely, but I think he was like the worst performance in the combine ever from someone of his position to come out and be. I mean, I don't want to start the debate as to who's the greatest quarterback ever, but to win the number of Super Bowls and titles that he has, you know, whether you say it's the Belichick factor or you know it's because it's the Patriots, that combination and him being able to do that for that period of time is just ridiculous.
It's
And
incredible.
he has put the work in. Like he had zero talent. If you look on the face of it, he had zero talent or arguably zero ability in comparison to his peers. And look at where he is.
Well, I had a friend that played for the Patriots, and Tom Brady, first in, last out.
Yeah.
His expectations for what everybody else, his expectations for himself kind of trickled on to everybody else. If you weren't willing to work, then you weren't going to be on that squad, you know. But just anything, you know, the sports world is a great place to look at it, but you look at kind of things that other people have accomplished in the world. You know, I love to read. I love reading books, and I believe everybody has a book in them, you know. But there's so many people that have done so many great things just for taking a step out from the norm, you know. To be a great lawyer, you have to put the work in. To be a great doctor, you have to put the work in. To be great at anything, you have to put the work in. Because you've got to be different. Because there's a lot of people that are good. But if you want to be great, you've got to do something different.
But I think that greatness, that you doing something different, you can only uncover that and find that through putting in the hours, putting in the time, putting in the graft, and doing the hard work.
Yep.
That's where you then find your own unique style, and you know things then all of a sudden start happening to you or for you, or you know moving in your direction.
Yep. But you kind of touched on there, and I like the debate about the best quarterback that's ever played the game because there's so many talents. But you talk about the Belichick effect. I believe Bill Belichick's arguably the best coach in the history of football. What he's been able to do.
Yeah.
Bill Belichick's still there, and the Patriots are 5-7. You know, and yeah, they've got injuries here and there, whatever it is, but there's something about that. And you look at Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers, statistically, right now, you know, I've got a friend of mine that's a great big-time Green Bay Packers fan. And when they drafted Jordan Love here at the end of the first round, she's like, oh, no, that's the end of Aaron Rodgers. So what does Aaron Rodgers do?
He smashed it.
One of the best years he's had in years, you know. And that's the thing. It's all about creating a space for yourself and the collective group to have the best success that they can. And sometimes it just takes one person to do something a little bit different, and it's contagious, you know. But you look at Brett Favre. I love Brett Favre. I got to watch him play. Threw more touchdowns than anybody else. Not now, but at the point he had thrown more touchdowns than anybody else, and also more interceptions than anybody else. But he played with a smile on his face, and he had fun. And that's it. People say, well, he was just a natural. No, he worked hard. That's how it became natural for him. You know, and nowadays, I think people expect to pick up a football or a basketball or a soccer ball or a calculator, whatever it is, and they pick it up and they expect to be great immediately. They do. They expect to have it be great immediately, and they don't, and they get frustrated. I was in America a few months back, and I went to our rec center with a buddy of mine and his son. Now, his son's a great athlete, 6'4", probably about, I don't know, 220 pounds. He's a high school senior, plays tight end, not really a basketball player. And he steps up, and the size of him, and he starts to take free throws, and he couldn't hit a free throw for the life of him. And he throws the ball down, and he storms away, grumping, and I'm like, hey, bud, come here. How many times have you thrown a free throw? I haven't. Well, at what point do you think that you deserve to be good enough to make everyone you're taking? You know, and it's the same with everything. If I was to sit down right now and try and do a flippant algebra problem or a geometry problem, I'm screwed because it's not something I've worked on in a long time. But that's the thing, is you've got to be willing to do something in order to be good. And that's where I think a lot of people fall short at this present moment, is the instant gratification that everybody wants. This isn't the Matrix. It's not a blue or a red pill. That's not how it works. It's looking at what you have, looking at what you've got, looking at what you want, evaluating, putting a plan together, and finding a way to get through it. You fight, you grind, you repeat. And that's it. You get there in the end. And if you don't get there, you've got somewhere else, but at least you're better than where you were. And that's kind of going back to the very beginning. I think this is all about progression in life, you know, and celebrating the small successes. You know, it's don't let a number on a scale determine your happiness. Don't let a number in your bank account determine your happiness. Don't let a number of likes or a number of comments on a social media outlet determine your happiness. Let your happiness come from within, from your efforts and the things that you've done. As you surround yourself with beautiful, great people, that's where your happiness should be determined. And at the end of the day, you know, ultimately, as people say, oh, life's hard. Like, yeah, it is. But it's also a lot harder when you're not happy and you don't have joy in your life. And we've got to find a way to create that within ourselves and for those round about us.
Absolutely. So talk me through what you are doing in accordance with that now, how you are helping people, what you're doing day to day.
So now I work with a really unique group of people and a really unique company. I work with a company called Synergy Worldwide. And we're an elite health company, and we manufacture and create cutting edge, scientifically researched supplements and nutrition. There you go.
And shakers.
Yeah, really cool shakers too. No, but we do cutting edge, elite health supplementation. We have a team of doctors, PhDs, MDs, research development team, and they look at kind of deficiencies within the body that's caused, whether it be environmental factors, diet, whatever it is. And we create supplements that can aid the body in its ability to function at an elite level, or function as it's supposed to. We've got cutting edge science. You know, one of our top products, the science behind that won the Nobel Prize in 1998. Very unique product. It's all science-based. There's kind of no fluff. It's not marketed in any other way to try and pull the fluff or the wool over anybody's eyes. Our products work cohesively within the body to help the body function as it's supposed to. So what I'm doing is very similar to what I was doing when I was coaching. I'm not involved in the day-to-day of coaching football and things, but I'm doing something very similar. It's just a different platform. So while I'm back here, and right now, you know, I've not been traveling, but I'm helping build teams, creating opportunities for people to improve their health, and also, you know, if it's something that they want to do, they can be a part of what we're doing and spread what Synergy is doing, and allow them to have a home-based business also. So I do a lot of work trying to create opportunities for that, trying to put people in different situations where they can have success, you know, and right now we're working hard on a new program, new game plan for 2020, you know, as we drive into the last few weeks of, 2021, as we drive into the last few weeks of 2020, putting things into motion, putting things into play for the start of next year. And I love it. I'm surrounded by incredible people that really want to help others, that really want to serve others, that are driven by the right things. You know, because as I said earlier, I believe if you take care of things off the field, things on the field will take care of themselves. And I do love it. You know, our company has been involved in so many great things, and but I've seen our products change lives. I've seen our company and the people involved with it change lives through charitable work, through different humanitarian products, and programs, do great things for people all over the place. And I love it, you know. And even just as recently as having this last surgery, my doctor, when he cut me open, when I came back around, he cut me open. He goes, for how bad your leg was swollen, he goes, when I went in there, I was expecting it to be a lot worse. He goes, and I was kind of disappointed. He goes, because he said, for somebody of your age, I'm like, what? For somebody of your age, your muscle tissue, because what happens, like a lack of blood flow, you know. He goes, your blood flow, there was no damage to the muscle that we thought it was going to be. Your circulation's great. He goes, it's really freaky because my resting heart rate is about 42 beats a minute. He goes, for an average person, that's them close to dying. You know, all these different things, but I'm healthier than I've ever been. And that's what I love to do. I want to help people in any way, shape I can. And you know, I came to a conclusion a long time ago. You can have all the money in the world, you can have all the success in the world, but if you don't have your health, then what do you have really?
Yeah.
So right now, a lot of our focus right now is really developing the UK and building our European team. And so while I'm here, I'm working hard to try and find people that want to be a part of what we're doing, and help people with their health through our products, and or doing what I'm doing in the business, you know. And it's really cool. We've got so much support from our corporate team. We've got so much support from our business team and things like that. So it's really fun, you know. And I've been able to do so many cool things, travel all over the world, be around great people, you know, and I'm ready for that to start back up. And I'm ready to take my team all over the world. I'm ready to do things, fun things with them, and have them contribute to the cool things that can help other people. So I do love it. And I'm waiting for things to kind of kick back up again. We've been, once this leg heals up, I'm going to try and get myself back in football shape and maybe play a little bit, see if I can go another round or two. And,
one more year.
Yeah, it's always one more year. Just focus on the one more year. But I enjoy it. You know, I enjoy the challenge. You know, with what's going on here, has been a challenge. I'm used to being on the road and doing meetings and being around people, and I'm grateful for technology, for Zoom and the ability. It's not the same. I love face-to-face and belly-to-belly stuff, but we've had to adapt.
Yeah.
And
could you imagine what would have happened if we'd have had to have locked down like this without TVs, without the internet, without Amazon, without...
No, I wouldn't like to imagine how it would be. As far as for the mental health and psychological health of the world, no, I wouldn't like to even imagine how that would be. But we're so blessed, and we should be so grateful, you know. And my hope is that anybody listening to this, I hope they get something out of it. And if they do get anything, I hope it's that they can find some belief in themselves and have the ability to be brave, you know, and set your mind on something that allows you the freedom to be happy, you know, the freedom to have joy and the freedom to bring that to other people. Because at the end of the day, life is going to throw things at you, uncontrollable things. But at the end of the day, you've got to be able to control the things that you can control, and know that you're spectacular, that you're amazing, that you're capable of accomplishing so many great things. You just have to be willing to do it.
We don't give ourselves enough credit, do we?
No, we don't.
No one does. We put ourselves down all the time, and you think, you know, I know myself, something that I made a great habit of that was very detrimental. Although I felt like at the time it showed that I cared and I was passionate about what I was doing, but you know, every time I do something wrong, I would beat myself for it. I would criticize myself. I'd beat myself into the dirt. You know, if I had a really bad game, I'd go home straight away. I'd be out running. I'd go to the gym. And I would literally abuse myself and punish myself physically for performing to a substandard level, rather than actually giving myself a bit of credit, giving myself a little bit of love, and doing the right things for the right reasons, rather than just punishing yourself all the time. And you think, like, what's your self-talk like whenever anything goes wrong or you might make a mistake? What's your self-talk? And would you speak to someone else like that?
Yeah.
Probably not. And if you did, that person would think you were an absolute dick. And, you know, I talk about if you want to make a change in your life, what you need to do is actually negotiate with yourself. You have to have a conversation with yourself and treat yourself as another person and do the deal. Do bargain with that person, barter with them, do what you can to encourage them to come along with you, rather than just going, this is what you're doing, you have to do it.
Yeah.
Okay. There's no convincing, there's no kind of...
And you hit it right on the head. We don't give ourselves enough credit.
No.
We don't. Even if somebody compliments you on something, people, oh, no, I don't. Because people try to be humble. Or just say thank you. You did something good. You know, not everything's going to go your own way. I mean, you talk about, you know, having a bad game or whatever. You go run, that doesn't help you fix what you just did. Reevaluate and talking to yourself, looking at what you did, and then coming up with, okay, this is the situation I was in. This was my lack of preparation that put me in this situation. What can I do to be better next time that comes around? Once you've figured that out, then you can prepare for that, you know. And but no, that's maybe one of the best things that we could speak about on this, is about self-love, you know, respecting yourself enough to love yourself, and respecting. And I've thought about this a lot over the last couple of years. Like, do not be ashamed and do not be afraid to do something that the you in 5 years would be so dang proud of, or the you in 10 years would be so grateful that you did that right now. And people don't get that. Or even in a smaller, you in 12 months. Like, think about yourself in 12 months. Be the person that you are in 12 months can be proud of, you know. But if you don't respect yourself enough, or love yourself enough, or value yourself enough, then in 12 months, you're just going to be in the same place. 5 years, you're going to be in the same place. You've got to be able to, as you say, you've got to be able to make deals and promises and bargain with yourself first, you know. And I love you use that line, like, talk to yourself like you would like somebody else to talk to you. And knowing that you know yourself better than anybody else. Sometimes, you know, in my coaching career, sometimes I've had to put my arm around a player and speak to him. Sometimes I've had to look somebody in the eye and that was it. Sometimes I've had to yell at a kid. Everybody's different, but you know yourself. Do what you need to do so that you can reevaluate. But you have to know the problem first.
Yeah.
Before you can figure out a solution. You know, and talking about football, we've talked about it a lot. I remember when I was at BYU, we played the University of Utah, big rivalry, and we lost. We didn't beat them while I was there. I hated it. You know, I hated it. We lost the game up there, and the game came down to 3 mistakes. Now, not discrediting them because they're a great football team. I love Kyle Whittingham, great football coach. But when we broke down the game defensively, 3 mistakes, and they were good enough to capitalize on those mistakes. A player did something he wasn't supposed to, boom. You're in the wrong gap, they run up that gap, boom, touchdown. You've got to be able to analyze, look at what you did wrong, or look at maybe not what you did wrong, what you didn't do well enough, and then you can go and evaluate. And then you're better the next time around, you're better prepared. But it comes from self-talk. It comes from honest self-talk. You know. But no, we're quite incredible, more incredible than we give ourselves any credit for. I think you're spot on.
Definitely. So in the art of self-care, self-love, what what rituals, what daily practices do you have in place, or even pre-leg surgery? What were you doing on a daily basis to look after yourself and, you know, for your age, keep in such good condition?
Son of a gun. We'll see what this age can do. No, so I have I have things I like to do first thing in the morning. See, I'm quite a structured person. I need structure. Because I do sometimes, I find I allow myself to say yes to too many different things at times that distract me from my things. But I do like to, the first thing in the morning, I'm quite a spiritual person. I do believe that we have a purpose on this earth. I do believe that God has sent us here to do something incredible for other people.
Do you know what? Just sorry to pause you there, but even if you don't buy into religion, even if you don't believe in God, like I think that belief of I have a purpose on this earth through whatever means is probably the most important thing that you can have. Believing that you simply have a purpose, whether you believe you were put here by God or aliens or
whatever it is, to have a purpose. Yeah. So I was speaking to one of our team members the other day there, and she just bought a book by Ant Middleton, right? I'm not sure what it was. I'm not sure what one it was. But she was telling me, she goes, there's a question he asks in it, and he asks, who are you? Right? And she goes, well, I started to write down, she goes, well, I'm Lynn. And I said to her right away, goes, that's not who you are, that's your name.
Yeah.
Like, who are you? Like, deep down in your soul, who are you? Well, I'm a mum. No, you're not a mum. That's what you do. Like, who are you? What's your purpose? And that's where a lot of people get caught up on, well, I'm Robert and I am this. No, that's your name and that's what your job is. That's not who you are. And I think we've got to do a lot of evaluation and thinking about what's our purpose? Who are we? You know, but I get up, the first thing I do in the morning is I get in my bed and I say my prayers. And I pray for opportunities throughout the day to be better, and I give thanks for all the opportunities that I have in my life. And then I try to take a little bit of time just to read, kind of to have a nice big glass of water. And I do take my supplements first thing in the morning, but I take about 20 minutes just to myself when it's nice and quiet to kind of evaluate and plan my day and go through certain things and just get myself ready for the day. And then I like to be structured. I do like to be structured. And sometimes you have to be a little bit adaptable because sometimes things don't always go as you hope. But I do that first 20 minutes in the morning is my time for me to think. And sometimes I might just lay there quietly, a bit of meditation, but I need to start that day the same way every day and kind of refocus. Okay, what's my goals for today? What do I need to do today? How can I get this accomplished with time restrictions or whatever it is? I've got this meeting, but I've got this call. How can it? And just kind of plan it out. And, you know, and before this, then I would get up and I'd go to the gym. I like to get my workouts in nice and early. And that invigorates me. That gets me ready for the day. You know, and I think everybody should try and get up early and do something. If time permits, and if not, make it. Do something, whether it be 10 push-ups or 10 squats, whatever it is, do something in the morning. You've been lying nice and flat in a state of sleep for several hours. You've got to get your heart going a little bit. You've got to get your blood going a little bit. You've got to get the chemicals in your body and your brain functioning a little bit so you can focus on the day ahead.
Change your state. 100%.
Yeah.
Change your state, isn't it? That's what it is. I mean, the very quick change of state that people will experience when they wake up is when they've overslept.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden,
oh my gosh! Oh, and then it's panic mode.
Everything's on red alert, 100 miles an hour, like you're flying then. However, when you wake up, normally day to day, it's probably a lot easier than that. It's probably a lot slower, a lot more lethargic. You might even feel like, you know, you're still tired half an hour into your day or whatever. Like, but if you do something physically active and you change the state, change the firing pattern in your brain, you cultivate that energy to push on and get things done.
And I think to kind of go along with that, when you wake up, when you oversleep and you sleep in, your change of state changes fast. But that's when you're driving to work or you're driving somewhere and you're like, oh no, I forgot. Because you're not in a position where you're able to make the right things. Whereas if you wake up early and you've got something planned, and I'm not saying you have to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning like some people do, but get up a little bit. If you've got your schedule, say you start work at 9 o'clock, okay, and you want to set your alarm for 10 minutes earlier. You can get a lot done in 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever it is. You know, for me, I like to get up, say my prayers, go to the bathroom. Every guy does it, right? Go to the bathroom, come back, take some time to read, meditate, evaluate, go through my calendar, whatever I need to do, get a workout in. And then I can be back home and I'm ready, have a shower, I'm ready to go, you know, and it's about making things a little bit of a priority. And it is, you know, that hard first few days of doing that. But now, like when I was coaching, there was sometimes we had early morning practice. Like we were on the field at 6 o'clock in the morning. In St. George, it was in the summer, it's 120 degrees. I don't know what that is over here, 40 or 50, whatever it is, I don't know.
Hot.
Hot. It's hot, right? My first season in St. George, we trained in the afternoon. It was that hot on the turf that players' cleats were melting off their feet. The soles of my shoes were melting.
Yeah.
So we went in the morning. So if we're starting at 6 o'clock in the morning, I have to be up at 4 to get into the office, to get everything ready, get our stuff, practice plan, go over my practice plan, make sure everything's ready. 4 o'clock in the morning's early, you know. And then now I find myself waking up before my alarm. But I do like to get up early, say my prayers, have a nice drink, get my supplements in me early, get a workout in. And then but the night before, I do like to do a little bit 10-minute of prep for the next day, just going through, making sure I've got everything done. And people say, well, some people might say, well, I don't have time for that. Yeah, you do. If you were to really evaluate yourself throughout the day, you've got 10 minutes to prepare for something the next day. Everybody does.
Yeah.
Even the busiest person in the world. You know, if you go to the bathroom, whatever it is you can take, do it for 10 minutes. You've got to find a way to do that, because you need that to be. To be everywhere is to be nowhere. You know, if you're running about and you're chasing your tail all the time, to be everywhere is to be nowhere. You can't get the things accomplished that you need to get accomplished.
Yeah, you can't. I don't think you can underestimate the importance of what is essentially bookending either point of your day. So starting your day at the right point in the right place with the same rituals, the same routine, getting yourself in the right state, and then doing the same at the end of the day so you can get a good night's sleep, recover, refresh, reinvigorate yourself, go to bed, and then get up and repeat. And obviously, I think that's what a lot of the most successful people on the planet do. And, you know, why would you not utilize that for something that is so simple yet so powerful? And one I think I often talk about this in in football and training, and when it comes to being physically fit, physically healthy, the simple things are the most effective because nobody else seems to do them. You know, they think it's all too easy, it's too good to be true. That's never going to make a difference. But they're the simplest things to do, and we write them off.
Well, I was just about to say that.
And then we're all looking for the magic pill. We're all looking for the quick, easy response or the big thing that's going to turn it all around for us. And it doesn't exist.
EDD.
And again, that success is a culmination of all the little things done well, all the simple things done consistently, day after day, hour after hour, for a lifetime, that makes us who we are, makes us into whether we believe we fit our definition of success or whether we've fulfilled our purpose. And you can't underestimate that. You can't write that off.
No. And you did touch on it, like it's the small things that seem the insignificant, so nobody does them. In football, EDDs, everyday drills. I've had players that, why are we doing this every day?
Yeah.
Until they have to use it. It's like the tiny little things. You hit it around. Everybody's looking for this big, magic, incredible thing to happen. It's the little things, doing them over and over and over. Well, how is going to bed early, or how is me getting up 10 minutes early and doing a little workout before I go to work going to make my day any better? Try it and see.
Yeah.
But people just don't get it. Oh, that sounds too simple to make a difference. No, try it and see. One of my good friends, he worked for Stephen Covey. Now, Stephen Covey, Dr. Covey, wrote many books, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, one of the all-time bestsellers now. Dan was one of his chief strategists and businessmen in the company. And he interviewed all these great leaders in the world. There's no secret to success. They all do the same thing. Maybe a little tweak here or there, but there's no secret to success. Repetitiveness, consistency, doing the same thing and getting good at it and accomplishing something and then changing. But it's consistent effort, you know, and it's having pride in what you do, you know, being persistent in everything that you do and trying to be as you know, people say, well, practice makes perfect. No, it doesn't. Perfect practice makes perfect. If you're doing something wrong all the time, the same time, all the time, then you're not getting better.
That's just bad habits.
Bad habits. Yeah. Let's create good habits and doing things consistent. And it is, you hit it right on the head, buddy. It's doing the small things. You know, you could talk about kicking or football, whatever, that, you know, the slight deviation as you put your plant foot down is going to have a huge difference on where that ball ends up. Because
it's that 1 degree again. It's Florida or New York.
Yeah,
where we're heading.
You know, that slight deviation of where your plant foot lands, all the way up through your knee, through your leg to your hip. So you now point of contact is different. You're either pushing it or pulling it, or there's so many different things. And anything, you know, regardless of your profession, there's a way to do things, and there's a way not to. And that's you know, I like to use the analogy of a golf swing or a kick or catching a football or striking a soccer ball. However you do it, I don't care how you get there, but at that immediate point of contact, at the immediate point where it's you versus that, it's the exact same. I don't care where you start your run up on a handstand as a kicker, but at the end of the day, at that point of contact on that football, when you and I hit a good ball, that point of contact, if you were to take our body and our pit, it would be exactly the same. A golf swing, exactly the same. People start with the club higher up for whatever it is, but at point of contact, it's all going to be the same. So it doesn't matter how you get there, but it's the little things that you've got to evaluate and reevaluate and change and work on. So at point of contact, wherever it is pure. But people cut corners. I hate it. There's a great, when I take conditioning or whatever and I say start behind the line, people start with their foot on the line. No. Behind the line. People might think that's a little anal, but it's those little things, you know. Be behind the line. Don't cut corners. Don't cheat an inch. Do things the right way all the time, you know.
Do you know what one of the worst things that I see in any team whenever you do a drill, let's say it's something as simple as doing shuttle runs, and people are an inch short of the line every time. They change direction early and they cut about an inch off every single shuttle. And that little shortcut, even though it's insignificant there and then in the moment, you think, it doesn't matter. As long as I'm back or I'm not last in the group or whatever, it doesn't matter. I can feel okay about that. But ultimately, that says an awful lot about who you are as a person, as a player. And, you know, for anyone who is a player or an athlete or someone that performs to that kind of level, understand this. As a coach, I can honestly say this, it gets noticed.
Oh, yeah, massive.
Every single time. And you taking shortcuts where people can see it, what impression do you think that creates on us as a coach as to what you're doing in your spare time? if you're taking shortcuts in front of us as a coach, what happens in private? Are you putting in the work? And one of the big things that I would always look for in a player or an athlete or someone who's aiming to push through in a team is, what are they doing in front of me? What can I see? What can I see? And then what do I think is going on behind the scenes away from here? And if I think someone's taking shortcuts or they're not putting in the work and they're not putting in the grind, and I see someone else who is, guess what? When abilities are the same, who am I going to pick?
Well, that's it.
Who would I back?
Yep.
Who would I throw into the fold? Who would I suggest or recommend takes the play?
Yep. And they don't get that. They don't understand that. They think we're dumb. People think people are dumb. They're not watching. Oh, it's just an inch.
Or it's when you go, oh, coach hasn't said anything. Maybe I've got away with that. No, you didn't. Don't worry.
No, I had a player. No names, but I had a player, great player. And our football program, our computer program, allowed players to watch stuff at home, you know. But because I was the coach, I could see the amount of hours he was watching at home. And he never did. And he would always make mistakes. But he would always I hate it because he would always make great plays, right? But I came to the point where I had to drop him. I couldn't start him that week because it was a really tough opposition. He had such a particular job that he had to do. And he was so angry at me. I had to pick a lesser talented player that did his job right because he put the effort in.
Reliability, dependability, availability, all three of the biggest factors in selection.
Yeah. And it's a shit, but I taught him a lesson. He realized he became a better player, you know. But it's the little things. It's like running, you know. Even a kid, you know, don't run to the line, run through the line, because if you're running to the line, then you're actually starting to slow down before you get there. You know, run through the line, slow down after the line's finished. But it just comes down to integrity, because if players are doing, for instance, your players, if they're doing just enough to get by in front of you, then you're spot on. They're not doing what they need to do away from it. And it just comes down to pride, I think. Not being a proudful person, but having pride in what you do. You know, and I think the anagram, you know, there's lots of different anagrams, but it's like personal responsibility in daily effort or daily execution or whatever. But it's personal responsibility. That's taking pride in something.
Yeah. And again, it comes down to exactly what we spoke about earlier, isn't it? Where everything you do contributes to you, contributes to who you are as a person.
Yeah. Every choice has a consequence, whether it's good or bad. Everything we do has an effect on our future self. And it's either up to us whether it's going to be a good or a bad consequence. You know, if you miss a day at the gym, it might not be that big a deal. But if you start missing days at the gym, it becomes a big deal. If you eat that one extra scoop of ice cream, it's probably not that big a deal. But if you start doing it each day, and that's it, you know, it's okay to get right back on track. But you've got to find a way to do that. And that's, but every choice, everything that we do has a consequence for good. And I think as you get a little bit older, you have to realize that the choices we make now have a consequence on other people. As a child, it's not so much. But as you grow older and you're in a position of responsibility, or you're in a position of leadership, or you become a husband or a wife or a parent or whatever it is, now your consequences affect other people and your choices affect other people. So I think it just comes from maturity, and you know, and I love the way the world's adapting in so many different ways, you know, and we have so many opportunities to see so many different men and women doing so many incredible things all over the world. And they're there for their efforts. They're there because they've worked hard and opportunities arose, and they've taken a chance and been able to do it. But there's nothing more sad or disappointing to a coach than to watch somebody with all the talent and the ability to be something spectacular and they do not achieve it. And it's so sad. And it happens way too often, you know, because I think nowadays with social media and with the public eye, people are sat on these pedestals or given so much acclamation so early. You know, I've seen people at 12 or 13 that are as good and talented, gifted as people 10 years senior, but they stop progressing because they stop working. Or the love of practice, the love of training, the love of the hard work diminishes because they're above everybody else at that point. And I think it sometimes requires asking for help or looking for opportunities to guide, you know, because sometimes there's a huge difference. You never know what's going on in somebody's home life. You never know what's going, as a coach or a trainer, whatever, you only get them for a small period of time. And you've got to be so intuitive to find out kind of how you can better serve that person. But no, everybody's got something special within them. It's just a matter of trying to poke, prod, pull it out, push it out. But at the end of the day, it's up to you. You know, you've got to want to. You can't, if you're forced to do anything, you don't do it the right way. There was I talk about BYU a lot because it was a lot of kind of growth for me. But we had these things called perfect 10s. We had to do 10 of them. And they were just 10-yard sprints, right? 10-yard sprints. And we had the guys line up, 3 groups. And I need to find a picture. If I can find a picture, I'll send it to you, because we had an aerial view from our camera guys, right? We had the guys walk up. So Coach Mendenhall would be walk up. You'd walk up and everybody would have to get down in a 3-point stance in unison together. Okay. And then he'd blow his whistle. Everybody had to get off together and everybody had to finish. I mean, people will be faster, but you know,
yeah.
But he just wanted to create this doing everything together. And I remember the first time we did it, the guys must have run about 100 of them because somebody would put their hand on the line or in front of the line or go down a little. But then you start putting the onus on the players to hold the other players accountable. And then at one point throughout the season, we ran it and the 10, perfect, just like that. And it was a big learning curve for me as a young coach, learning, like, people can do things amazing if they just put their mind to it. And if they understand. The first time you do something, you might not fully understand it. But as you do the small things and as it becomes kind of repetitive at times, you get a better understanding. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh yeah, this is how I do it. This is how I'm going to do it. And there's so many little things and I think anybody, as they look back in their life, they can find moments where they've had the opportunity to figure out why. You know, because if you can teach somebody, as a coach, I don't care what you can do. I don't care what you're good at. What can you teach? Can you get a point across and explain to somebody, well, why is it important to line up this way? Why is it important to do things this way? If they understand the why, then it makes a huge difference. But it's neat. And you know, in any kids nowadays and young adults or whatever it is, we're all learning. But I think it's important that people understand, you know, why, and then because of the why, the choices that they make will have an influence for good or bad in their future. And you know, but I think there's a lot of kind of expectations forced on people to grow up early.
Yeah. We have to be able to figure out why in our own lives, don't we?
Yeah.
We have to be able to figure that out ourselves. Robert, my man,
it's been great.
This is I have no idea how long we've actually been speaking to. I think it's must be near 2 hours 45
almost
minutes.
3 hours or so, yeah, but it's great.
We could quite easily talk all day long, but I think that's one hell of a note to finish on right there. Yeah. So I just want to say it's been amazing to have you on for the last few hours and speak to you. And again, like I say, we could easily carry on this conversation for another 4 or 5 hours probably.
Yeah. But thank you. Thanks for having me. And it's great. It's great. I'm proud of you for what you're doing, trying to use.
Thank you very much, my man.
The great opportunities and the gifts and the talents that you've been given to help people. And, you know, I'm kind of honored to be able to be and share a little bit of time with you. I appreciate your time. I appreciate all you do. And I'm grateful for you, my man. Great. Really am.
No, I appreciate it, mate. Appreciate it. Thank you very much. Well, What a great conversation that was. I don't know about you, but I'm feeling super fired up. I'm actually going to head off to the gym in a moment and crack on and get a good workout in. I think Robert is an absolutely, as I said at the start of the show, an absolutely inspirational guy. Incredible person to be around, very, very positive and very, very knowledgeable as well. I mean, like I said, I could have spent very, very easily hour after hour actually speaking to Robert. And we have done previously as well. We've actually sat down many times before with the intention of it being a quick half an hour phone call, and it's lasted for an hour and a half, 2 hours, or it's got very late on into the evening. So hopefully you've taken something incredibly positive, incredibly empowering from that conversation. Hopefully you've absolutely loved it to bits. Robert will be someone who I will definitely want to get back on the show again at a later date. And yeah, I think make sure you stay inspired, stay positive, keep that mindset. And again, bear in mind, whatever circumstances you're going through, whatever you've been through, use it to your advantage. I think if that's one lesson to learn from everything that Robert's been through, take it and run with it. No matter how bad it might seem in the moment, no matter how hard you might need to fight, what other people are going to say, look at the people you've got around you. Look at your support network. Look at the people who are positive and want to help, and then go and ask for it. Again, I think one of the big things that has come out of that conversation is don't be negative. Don't be someone who complains. Don't surround yourself with negative energy. Surround yourself with greatness, positive people, positive experiences, and things will happen for you. So if you've got any questions off the back of this, if you want to get in touch with Robert, if you want to ask him any more questions for future shows, give me a shout, alex@lenkohq.com, or if you're watching this on YouTube, again, you can just leave a comment on there and I'll pick it up. And again, get in touch with us on social media. I will be speaking with Chris again soon. Chris will be back on the show and we'll be recording something else together. And again, I've still got some really, really great guests, some really inspiring people lined up to speak to. And if they're anything like the conversations that I've had lately with Wayne and with Robert, we are in for one hell of a ride. So hopefully you're feeling inspired, feeling positive, and go and make a positive difference in the world. Go and be great and impart some of your positive influence on other people. So until next time, that's it from me. Lenko out.